Call this meeting of the Port Orange Planning Commission order. If you please rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. If the clerk will please call the roll.
John Junko.
Here.
Maria Mills Bennett.
Here.
Newton White.
Here.
Bo Bofamy.
I'm here.
Lance Green.
Here.
Stan Schmidt.
Here.
Thomas Jordan.
Here. Very good. Moving on to action items number 4, the consideration of minutes from the last meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as is. Please call the roll.
John Junko.
If I wasn't here, can I approve the minutes?
We're here now.
I mean, for the minutes for the
Yes.
past. Yes, okay.
You trust me?
Maria Mills Bennett.
Yes.
Bo Bofamy.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White.
Yes.
Stan Schmidt.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Very good. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5 here. We have a couple of housekeeping items. And these were turned in beforehand. So we have 2 conflict of interest forms which have been filed by members of the commission. One for Stan Schmidt, who has a conflict which would inure to his special private gain or loss on item number 5, which is 19-65000001, the PCD rezoning of the Palms at Ashton Lakes, as well does Commissioner Lance Green for basically the same reason, special gain or loss. So, for the same item. So both of those individuals, because they submitted them in advance with the clerk, are able to speak to the items tonight, but they will not be voting, just so you all know. And then, but then we do have a quorum for that item anyway. Also, for those of you who have not joined us before, essentially the rules of participation are the applicant for a particular project gets 15 minutes to make their presentation. Anybody who has any comments to make following that, you'll get an opportunity during the public comment for that item. You get 3 minutes to speak. That's been the standard rules here. If you are a group and you have a representative that you would like to speak for your group, that's fine. That helps minimize the same comments over and over again. So it helps us get to the end result faster. All right, so, yeah. Okay.
And I don't think that's the case.
Gotcha. All right. So our city attorney here informs me also if you're an interested party, is that it?
Yeah.
An interested party, as in, define that for us.
Well, if you have a significant impact based on the development that's being proposed, and you want to take that interested party standing in the quasi-judicial proceeding, then you'll be afforded additional time.
Very good. Alrighty. So moving on to item number 5, the application for PCD rezoning case number 19-65000001, PCD rezoning for the Palms at Ashton Lakes Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan. And tonight we have Gwen Perney talking to us about this. Hi.
Penelope Cruz Planning.
Oh, what? It has Gwen on here.
Planning. Oh,
How
sorry.
about Penelope instead?
This isn't working. So, give me a minute. All right. The subject property is a little over 18 acres, 18.72 acres. It is proposed to be rezoned from the Cypress Head planned commercial development to the Palms at Ashton Lakes planned commercial development, and approval of the Palms at Ashton Lakes PCD Master Development Agreement and Conceptual Development Plan. If approved, the applicant intends to develop the property with a 167-bed assisted living facility and a future commercial outparcel. So just some background on the site. The site's had commercial zoning on it since 1991 as part of the Cypress Head PUD. The Cypress Head PUD basically designated several acres in the overall area for commercial uses. This particular property and some of the other commercial areas that were designated as part of that PUD back in 1991 basically stated that when that property is ready to come forward to be developed, that it either needs to establish at that point a master development agreement and concept plan through the PCD process, or it should be rezoned to conventional zoning. So that's why we're here tonight. It's looking to be redeveloped, or to be developed, and they are here before you with their master development agreement and conceptual development plan. So the staff report went into all the details on the specifics of the proposed plan. You can see here the graphic kind of general concept plan. The master development agreement and the concept plan that were included in your packet provide that regulatory framework for development of the site as the 167-bed ALF, as well as the regulatory framework for any potential future commercial outparcel development. There are no deviations proposed in this master development agreement. They also maintain the continued preservation of the sign area here through the existing easement for the Ashton Lake subdivision, as well as maintenance and continued preservation of the conservation easements that are already existing on the property. You can see here in the darker green in the back, 200 feet wide, and this area down here in the southwest corner. So that will remain wooded, untouched. Staff is recommending approval of the master development agreement. Like we say, there's no deviations from this. All the detailed reviews in the staff reports. I'm here to answer any questions you may have about that. The applicant is here as well with their team. They do have a presentation they'd like to give to you as well. So if you'd like, we can let that happen, or if you have any specific questions for staff first.
Questions? John?
No, it looks good. It's a good transition area. I like the vegetation buffer into Ashton Lakes. It's protecting the residential area from that. So I have no questions at this time.
Okay. Maria?
I'll wait till after the presentation.
All right. Bo?
Yeah, I'll wait as well.
Lance?
I won't wait.
Newton?
I hear the presentation first.
Okay. Stan?
Yeah.
I guess we're going to wait. If we can have the applicant please come forward, and we'll have a presentation on the project.
All right. Good evening.
Hi.
For the record, I'm Mark Watts with the law firm of Cobb Cole. My address is 231 North Woodland Boulevard, DeLand. So glad to be over here from the DeLand office of Cobb Cole. I have with me this evening Bill Maggard, who's the project manager with NextCore Group, who's the applicant in this case. Also have Jamie Mellencamp, who's with Oz Architecture. They're the architects that have worked on it and also worked on the site design. And Matt West with Lassiter Transportation Group. So want to start out by thanking your staff. As always, they've done a phenomenal job working with us as we've kind of prepared this to come before you this evening. Thank them as always for their input and constructive suggestions on how to make it a better project prior to even getting here in front of you. We want to take you through a little bit of presentation just to kind of give you an idea of what the proposal is. We've got some specifics in there as well, and we had a neighborhood meeting. We kind of went through and did a breakdown of the things that we changed as a result of that as well. You'll see that as we go through the discussion. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Bill for a minute and let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his company.
Thank you, Mark. The NextCore Group has been working with hospitals and health systems over these last many years, helping health systems address healthcare reform and the facility development implications of healthcare reform. And you have been reading about that for the last dozen years or more, about this move, hopefully, from volume to value, which means that we're all trying as healthcare consumers. We want the focus to be on wellness and keeping people healthy. And we've been working, as I said, with health systems and hospitals across the country on outpatient development that addresses those concerns. And we realized in our discussions with hospitals and health systems that senior living communities play an important role and an increasing role in the healthcare delivery system. So how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep people healthy and active? And that will enable us to keep these the older age cohort, which tend to be high consumers of healthcare services, out of expensive care venues. So that's the vision and the why behind projects like this from NextCore's perspective. And the irony is that most members of the older age cohort, the vast majority, say, heck no, I'm not going to go to a place like that. So NextCore is saying, what are we going to do that's different? How are we going to appeal to those members of the baby boomer generation, like myself, who are going to refuse to make any concessions to age? We're going to get replacement parts to continue, the sports and the things that we like to do. And so the kind of the theme behind this project and the other projects we're doing in Florida of this type are, my age may change, but I don't want to change the way I'm living. I don't want to lose connections with the community. I'd rather build community both inside this new project and outside. And so when we think about the important aspects of the way we live, we are emphasizing for our sort of design themes for how we put these building blocks of this project together, the whole idea of eating as a connector, activity and staying active as a connector, and play as a connector. So those were sort of the things that we talked about with our design team, and Jamie leads that team for Oz Architects.
Thanks, Bill. As Bill mentioned, so we tried to break this down into some fundamental values that we all have as humans that are promoting good quality of life. So the first one, as far as eating, in many senior living communities, you've probably seen there's one such as ours where we're proposing independent living, assisted living, and in this case memory care, but oftentimes independent living and assisted living are segregated by age and acuity level. And NextCore had a really strong idea to mix all of those up, to not have anything separated by one age level versus another. So in the dining experience, we don't have separate dining venues. We have one collective dining venue that has multiple food choices and sort of design choices to it for all the residents to come and commingle. These were just some of the reference images we put together to talk to NextCore about this concept, about something that was breaking down the stale cafeteria environment and looking at something that had, again, more of that dining hall or food hall kind of experience to it. Really get people to connect and create socialization. We did talk about thrive. This is often a word that's used as wellness, but we thought wellness is sort of just the positive of being unhealthy. What we're really looking for is a thriving life, places where there's more than just medical treatment, that there's really quality of life, physical activity, and wellness activities. So again, we use some inspiration imagery to try to talk to NextCore about what those different wellness type components may be and how they may, both from a design aspect as well as the wellness exercise, et cetera, that they provide, how they can enhance life in this community. And then we talked about play. It's just that ability to connect with others in a social manner. And so we looked for a lot of different opportunities, again, through reference imagery for indoor and outdoor connection, through different social activities, gardening, play, things of that nature. So again, our whole idea here is to really bring people together, not segregate them into different categories, and really create connection. This also is helpful if you have, say, a situation where you have a couple, and one of the spouse may not be as capable as the other. This gives that ability to be in one place and be together.
Sir, I do mean to interrupt you, actually.
Sure.
So I want to make sure, we're here to talk about land development changes.
Sure.
How you operate and the design is not part of our discussion.
Okay.
So if you want to take the next 10 minutes and talk more about that, I understand.
Sure.
Just letting you know what we're here for.
And that's a great segue. That's what we're here now to kind of transition into. So,
Thanks.
as we began looking at this site, given the context of how NextCore is approaching the development of these types of facilities around the state of Florida and other places, they obviously arrived at this parcel as the one that they wanted to move forward with. So. What you see on the screen right now is just a concept plan that was developed early on to say, okay, what's allowed there now? If you looked at the existing commercial entitlements and came in and looked at the FARs and everything else that would be permitted, this was just kind of a theoretical 170,000 square foot shopping center that would be consistent from a comprehensive plan with that commercial designation. we think that the materials that you have in your staff report, we've done the full analysis of the traffic impacts and all the other types of impacts that are at play here. And in particular, I think the result you get from a traffic standpoint. Matt, do you want to come up and talk about this, or I'm gonna ask Matt West to just talk briefly about the difference from that kind of theoretical maximum of the commercial that could go on this site to what is proposed with the development.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Matthew West with LTG Incorporated, 1450 West Granada Boulevard, Ormond Beach. That diagram you saw was the most intense that the current zoning and the current land use would allow on the property, a 0.5 FAR. For those in the audience that don't know what that is, floor area ratio is the proportion of the building size to the land size. So if you had an acre of land, you could get a half acre of building. So that 7.9 acres could get 172,000 square foot retail center on it. That's very intense. What you have now between this community that they're going to build there and a 9,000 square foot shopping center is a drastic reduction in the potential traffic. As you can see on the slide, you're going from roughly 8,700 vehicle trips a day to around 1,200 vehicle trips today. That's because the kind of facility that is being designed is a very low traffic generating use. The people live there don't have their own cars. They eat in, they dine in, they don't have children to drive around. So even though the building looks relatively big, the trip generation is relatively low. And so therefore, by approving this project, you're significantly reducing the number of vehicle trips a day by roughly 75%.
Thanks, Matt. And Jamie, I'm going to ask you to if you can talk through the site layout a little bit.
Sure. So what we did here is we've really pulled the two parts of this, the senior living community that we're proposing. We pulled to the north side of the site. The site is accessed from a single drive here off of Williamson Boulevard, and then we have relocated following our neighborhood meeting the proposed drive onto Oakwater, closer to the main intersection. Previously, where the mouse is being indicated here, we had thought that this would be a good access point, but after that feedback, we pulled it down here. So we've really tried to create kind of an entry point that the service vehicles would use to get to the projects, and then as well as kind of a division between the two components, the small retail pad or office pad, and then the senior living community on this side. Sure. Again, I know we're not here to necessarily talk about the design, but this was just some conceptual imagery we had come up with for the exterior facade, showing sort of the articulation of materials, change in plane, that sort of thing.
The neighborhood meeting that we had was really helpful to us, and it gave the neighbors a chance to respond to our conceptual plan, and it gave NextCore Group a chance to regroup and say, how are we going to address these comments, and which ones can we accept, and which ones just aren't financially feasible. So I wanted to, we put together a list of all the comments that we heard, and I want to point you to those comments that really affected the site plan. So Jamie mentioned the fact that the neighbors wanted us to move the curb cut from that easterly intersection closer to the main intersection with Williamson, which we did. Jamie mentioned that we did have this rear drive that was going where traffic and deliveries could hit and connect with Oakwater. We eliminated that. Now it's just a hammerhead turnaround in the back. I know that there were several comments about safety of pedestrians with this curb cut that is going to be part of this development plan. So we've done several things in our plan to include stop signs for pedestrians. We're going to have a pedestrian crossing warning sign for vehicles that would be exiting on Oakwater. And we're also going to stamp the concrete sidewalk as a visual cue to both pedestrians and vehicular traffic to say, hey, slow down, watch it. The other thing that was a concern of the neighbors that had significant financial implications when we made this change, and staff pushed us to make this change, is that the required landscaping buffer on Oakwater, I believe, is 10 feet. Staff encouraged us, after hearing the neighborhood comments, to push it to 25 feet, and we accepted that. That affected the amount of parking that we could get in our commercial parcel and reduced the size of the commercial parcel, which has, depending on whose value you use, but it's a reduction in value of that parcel in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's a significant effect on the financial feasibility and pro forma for the project. Okay, Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. To kind of wrap things up, you know, we think that the proposed use of the property, again, it's a substantial reduction in the intensity that's permitted under the current maximum land use classification. 7,100 trips, average daily trips a day, you know, between kind of what's being proposed and what that theoretical maximum could be. This is, again, I think kind of as the staff report indicates, this is the type of infill project that is appropriate at the commercial nodes that are identified in your comprehensive plan, like this one. It's designed to serve people that are within a 2-mile radius. It's designed to provide a place for people that are in the community now to kind of age in place and transition from their homes and into a community that will, you know, meet their medical needs as they progress through older age. So we'd ask that you support the application and recommend approval to the City Council. Our group is here to answer any specific questions you might have. Again, I want to thank you for your time tonight and thank staff for the time that they've worked with us on this, and the neighbors that came out to the prior neighborhood meeting to talk about the project. So with that, I'd open us up to any questions you might have about the application or the materials in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. West. John, any questions?
No, they even commented about the vegetation buffer that I was happy to see. So no, I have no questions.
Maria?
No, I think I'm okay.
I was curious about the outcome of the community meeting. What was the general reception there?
I will tell you, I was not there. When one of my partners actually had to cover the meeting. I think the summary we provided, I think there was recognition that this was a less intense use than what otherwise could be built on the property. The principal concerns that I think we heard out of that were the location of the initial driveway that we had proposed, which again, as Bill had indicated, we relocated as part of what's in front of you now. And pedestrian safety. Pedestrian safety, I think, has been one of the recurring things that we've heard in the site plan submittal that we've made with regard to this project. One of the other things that we did was actually, so if you look along Oakwater, right along in this area, rather than continuing the sidewalk just straight along the...
We don't have a slide.
We don't
here,
have it up.
Oh. I'm looking at a slide that would make a lot of sense to you.
We can see your
Let's
finger point.
Looks good on your end.
Yeah. All right. So using this layout as an example, number one, you'll see here that, and if you're familiar with that area out there on Oakwater, there's been a median opening painted and otherwise indicated right here in this location for a long time. I think 1990 was when that was originally, this was all proposed with a connection. We moved the driveway from here to here. But then where the pedestrian connection goes across here, Bill mentioned we're going to be adding a couple things that are beyond what your code requires. One is that pedestrian, kind of beware pedestrian zone sign as you're coming out of this driveway. With a healthcare facility, we have to have two entrances. You have to have those two connections. And under your code, the Oakwater entrance would actually be the only entrance permitted if you did a strict review of your code. Williamson that entrance on Williamson would not be permitted. But we're able to kind of work and make sure that this makes the most sense. So we've added those signs. We've added pedestrian stop signs to alert people, hey, you're coming up to a driveway, you need to pay attention. We've got a change in the material you're walking on with the stamped concrete for that pedestrian connection. And the other thing that I think makes a lot of sense is we've actually pulled the sidewalk away from the road. So when you come up to the driveway, you actually pull onto NextCore's parcel instead of staying in the right-of-way. This whole sidewalk will come onto the parcel so that a vehicle turning into that driveway has more time to look to see that pedestrian crossing and realize, hey, there's somebody there. We need to pay attention to it. So I think it was a very thoughtful way to kind of handle that particular concern. It's a long answer to your question. But I specialize in long answers.
Well,
So
it was a tough question, but no, other than that, I see the vehicle capacity is about 65% with this report. So
the reduction,
we're well
yes.
below.
Yes, sir.
No saturation, so that's all I have.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Lance,
My turn.
it is your turn.
All right, so I've reviewed this project a lot, and again, I agree that this is the least amount of traffic impact that we're gonna put on the road. Absolutely is. But I will tell you is that we have an opportunity to make this particular project the best we can make it. This is an infill project, and I get that. And there's several things that I don't like about the project, or I think that need to be looked into, is two things. I don't like the landscape buffer along Oakwater Drive, and I think the landscape buffer should be bigger than what it is on Oakwater Drive, regardless of what we'd have to do to move. The driveway on Oakwater Drive should be a right-in only and should not have an exit coming out onto Oakwater Drive. That's just my opinion. I don't like the fact that you're gonna come out of here onto Oakwater. I'm okay with coming in because we got the red light and so on, but not coming out. So I'm a tree hugger, and I'm gonna be the first to tell you that I think that this particular project, this is not a drive-by business. This is not some business where you need exposure to the road. This is a business where we're gonna tuck in, and it is a great infill, and it's a great need. But at the same time, we have an opportunity to make this project better than what we have. I'm not comfortable with our landscape buffers as we have them now. I got a project across the street that I'm very disappointed with when it comes to landscape buffer, and 25 feet is not enough. It's not enough for the people who bought in this neighborhood to drive by. We need to increase that buffer along Oakwater somehow, some way, so that, and again, we've got room to move it, but to not impact the beauty of what Oakwater is. But again, and I firmly believe that with the traffic issues, excuse me, and again, my only thing with the traffic issues is if we had a right-in only off of Oakwater, I would think it would be something that would be more acceptable than a right-in and an out. Thank you.
Newton.
Several things. I'll second that with the right-in only. If there has to be an entrance exit on Oakwater at all, we have to consider not just this development, but on the north side of Oakwater as well, which is going to be a retail commercial node, which may have a lot more traffic. It's certainly going to have a lot more traffic than this facility. But to what I was reading in the staff report about having an intersection there, I don't believe it's going to be signalized, but it would certainly facilitate needing to be a four-way stop if you're having ingoing and outgoing traffic from both the future daycare facility, whatever's going to be there, maybe even something with a drive-through window, and this facility in and out. Definitely a right-in only if it has to exist on Oakwater at all, which apparently it does. Yeah, landscaping, I'd love to see a little bit more. My other concern with this entire project, and I can't find it in the staff report sitting here trying to scroll back up and down, was the number of parking spaces you have. It's been my personal experience with loved ones in facility to go there, and especially if you have students that are doing internship there, people that are visiting, there many times that there are way too many cars, not enough spaces, people parking everywhere all over the place. And you have already a office commercial building on the south side of this, and with no tell of what's going to be there and what the demand may be. And we can sit here and talk about the traffic standard manual and the ratio per square foot, and I can also tell you from other personal experience that that doesn't always work really well either, because not everybody comes in a car of 4, they all 4 come in a car, and then we have a problem. So I'm a little concerned about that and where you're going to wind up parking overflow, what it's going to be, and how it's going to work. I really would love to see a little bit more adequate parking, because by the time you put staff and visitors, there's visiting nurses, visiting doctors, visiting X-ray technicians, everybody else shows up. And I understand that on an occasion or a holiday or something, there's obviously happens in neighborhoods and everywhere, you're not going to have that. The other thing I would like to suggest is, and I don't know if it would be part of your project if you would be so gracious as to do it, but you talked about putting the stamped concrete on the pedestrian walkway, but adding a texture or a traffic calming to Oakwater might help slow things down going through there as well. Just my suggestion on that.
Thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
Stan?
My question is maybe more for our staff, but there was a part in here where we talked about the Oakwater entrance, and we noted in our staff report that that in the change it was going to line up with the proposed Central Park at Oakwater development. That's currently under site review. How far along is that project? Is that their only entrance and exit, or are they going to also have access to Williamson?
Good. Penelope Cruz, planning again. I'll try to address a couple of the questions. So Central Park at Oakwater is we're waiting for the resubmittal. It's got conventional zoning. They're following the land development code. For that project and this project, our land development code in the city of Port Orange actually states that if you have a lower classified road, such as Oakwater, a local street, and a higher classified road, Williamson, an arterial, the land development code actually states your sole access is to be from the lower classified road. So, because arterials and trying to prevent that stopping of traffic on the arterial that's supposed to be moving more vehicles. So we're already going above the code in allowing to not have the sole access off Oakwater and allowing that additional access onto Williamson.
For this project?
For both.
For both, okay.
And the concept plans also since 1991 showed 2 access points from both properties on Oakwater. Since 1991 has showed those access points on the concept plans that were approved by the city council back then. So we're already, both projects have already reduced it from 2 access points to 1, moved it up further away from the subdivision, and provided that other access point to not have the sole access on Oakwater, to try to have more of the traffic going on too. With regards to this particular project and the write-in only, this was a specific concern with public safety. They need that access point on Oakwater. That's the fastest, that's the safest route for them to go from the fire station. They're not going to go down Williamson, make a turn up, and get in there if somebody's life is in danger at an ALF. So they specifically stated that they need to get there in and out from Oakwater.
Okay.
Good. Penny, while you're here, real quick, that cut on Oakwater, it looked like it was, there's an existing median that would go past where that cut is.
It's
cut
not going
would
to
be.
impact, they're planning it behind the median, so there wouldn't be
Okay.
any, there wouldn't be any impacts to the existing median.
Okay, cool.
Hold on, can I ask a question to that, Mr. Chair? So you just said that the fire department or the public safety says we gotta have an in and an out?
Yes, on Oakwater, that they're coming in and out of there,
Really?
On Oakwater or
Yes.
on the property?
on Oakwater. Because
I
that's
get coming in, I don't know about going out.
that's
but-
their fastest route to get to the fires, from the fire station on Airport.
Yeah,
Get you in.
okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, you're set, Stan?
Yes.
I had, where was mine? Let me ask you this,
Yes, sir.
Have you've pushed this towards Williamson in concept? Is that primarily because of the conservation area in the back?
We're obviously the conservation area defines kind of what's, what the envelope of the property is to be able to fit into. We have looked at a number of different configurations, and this seemed to be the one that gave us the best opportunity to provide, to situate the building, while also providing the maximum buffering on both Oakwater and on Williamson with regard to the 50-foot buffering along Williamson and increasing this to that 25 feet along Oakwater.
So you've got 25 feet on the Oakwater side.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind, if you're driving down Oakwater, and Mr. Green, to your point from a few minutes ago, driving down Oakwater, there's a lot of great existing vegetation that exists along there now. That is, so what you've got adjacent to the roadway with the street trees and everything else, the property line is behind that. And so you have an additional 25 feet behind that that's in the buffer that is being proposed with the PCD. So I think it enhances, to your concern with regard to that, rather than going with the code requirement of 10 behind that on the property line, the 25 feet was intended to, again, enhance what was already there with the existing landscaping that's been installed along Oakwater. And that, obviously, and then complement with the entry feature that already exists for Ashton Lakes.
Yeah, that stays.
That stays.
That stays.
It's both recorded in an easement in the public records, and we reference that easement in our development agreement as well.
And the HOA maintains that as they.
That's
have
correct.
it. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Other than traffic, and I'm just suspicious of trip counts and things anyway, and reality, but I'll let that go.
Sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have a question? Go
I
ahead.
have one more. You talked about the stamping and everything for the pedestrians on the Oakwater side. Are you not doing that on the Williamson side as well? On the Williamson entrance?
For the crossing here,
We were, it's not shown on the current plan.
yeah.
I would implore you to do that because you guys are going to have a lot of children walking past there. Between future development and the Ashton apartments, there's a lot of kids that walk by there. So just to kind of be proactive,
Certainly.
I would do the same thing there. A lot of kids get hit around those neighborhoods as it is. So I would just be proactive and do that side as well.
Okay. No, thank you.
That
That's a
raises
great
a question I
suggestion.
wanted to mention. So you've got a decel lane on Williamson also? You got a decel lane and an acceleration lane? Is that what I understood?
We have a decel lane.
Yeah.
Just decel?
Yeah.
So coming, was that north, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd have decel lane to pull off into that driveway opening.
And there's no cut there for a left turn on southbound Williamson then? I don't remember what's that.
I thought there was. I think if you go back to
I think
that
we're
last-
showing one. I
I
don't
think
know
one
if
of the
this.
side plans you had.
If I'm coming
It's a
southbound
directional.
on
It's not
Williamson, I
a. It's
can
not a.
turn.
It's not a full opening. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I saw. Okay, good. Thank you. That's all I had for you guys. All right, so here's what we do. We're going to turn it over to let the public speak. You have something? Sure.
So, Penelope Cruz Planning. So Williamson Boulevard is a county right-of-way. Volusia County is reviewing the use permit for the access points right now on Williamson. They are requiring a left turn lane and a right turn lane for the South Williamson entry to be constructed, and that's part of the site plan.
Correct, yes. I saw, okay, I saw that. That's
So
what I-
if
that's what I
if
thought.
there's any other questions, Mr. Chairman, that come up that we need to come up and respond to, if I could just reserve a few minutes.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
sure. Yeah, that is one thing. Williamson is a county highway, and originally it was intended to be a bypass.
Right.
No cuts, no curb cuts, let traffic flow.
The
So
Beltway.
a beltway.
Beltway.
That's what Google
We sound
says
so
it is.
fancy.
So if
frontage
anybody would
road.
like to speak tonight about, come on, let's just stand up, come on up, be civil about it. 3 minutes per person. We've got a
Say your
little
name.
clock and we have a very loud alarm. So we ask anybody who wants to come up and speak, please do. Try not to repeat the same thing over and over and over again.
State your
We
name.
get it. Remember, we all live here too, so we know what's going on. Ma'am, you're first.
Name and where you live.
When you come on up, state your name and just give us an address of where you live here.
Okay, Arlene Fiore. I've been a resident of Ashton Lakes for 9 years. I'm also a licensed realtor that specializes in the Williamson Airport Road corridor for 10 years. I am very familiar with the demographics of the area. There's 3 points I'd like to make in particular. I'm glad that Penelope mentioned several times that this plan and that indent and curb were designated in 1991. I don't think, with all due respect, that the commission and everything realized at that point what the growth would be. My own experience in Ashton Lakes in the last 10 years. The demographics of Ashton Lakes changed from being a 70% empty nester, 30% children, to more like 55-45. And that's a growing trend right now. Also, while we are careful about our zoning and variances in that, New Smyrna in Venetian Bay isn't as careful. Homes in the Palms that are being built now are being built on 50-foot wide lots to allow for bigger density. Where do those people come to shop? Up to Publix. They all come up Williamson. I myself have witnessed, since the traffic light was installed on those corners, I've witnessed at least 2 of many accidents on that corner, all involving turns into Oakwater. I appreciate very much what Lance and Newton had to say about the tree buffer and that, and I appreciate the developer giving us that extra 15 feet, but our concern is safety, all right? And because of that, I'd like to go on record that Ashton Lakes, the people that live there, are requesting a reconsideration of that driveway and addressing the fact about emergency vehicles. Why not make it emergency vehicles only if there must be an entrance in on Oakwater? I've seen that done at many places, okay? Another thing, they spoke about how wonderful it is that they're theoretically reducing traffic by 75%. That's based on a theoretical larger commercial development being based there, where in reality, they're increasing it by 25%. We appreciate that it's going to be the type of facility that it is versus a big commercial building that might have had 75% more traffic, and I emphasize might have had. But the realistic numbers here are that it's increasing traffic 25%. I think that was all I wrote down.
And you
Thank
took your
you.
3 minutes. Congratulations.
Good job.
All right, next. Sir.
Walter Smith, 6191 Quail Ridge Drive. I'm also president of the Ashton Lakes HOA. First, we'd like to thank the developer for the concessions he's already made as far as eliminating the second access point on Oakwater. I do have a question though on his plan. He's still, even though the point's been eliminated, he's still showing a driveway going back there from his turnaround that leads to nowhere. Is he still planning in the future on trying to put an access point there or not? If not, his added parking that's you say he needs could very well be put back there. As far as our concerns, our primary concerns are access to Oakwater from Williamson. Right now, we have no left turn to get into Oakwater. There's a left turn from Williamson to Airport Road going north, where there's in general very little traffic compared to the southbound traffic. So we would like to see a left turn signal added to the existing signal for turning onto Oakwater from Williamson. Our other primary concern is safety of children. It's not just our children of Ashton Lakes, we also have the children of the neighboring community, Sterling Chase, all of whom use Oakwater as their primary avenue to the middle school. They're on foot, they're on skateboard, and they're on bicycles. And in addition to all of this stamping of the concrete, if there has to be an exit onto Oakwater, we would like to see stop signs put in for the community, not just stop signs for the public coming down the sidewalk, but stop signs for the vehicles exiting from the community. There should be stop signs onto Oakwater and onto Williamson. Because let's face it, drivers, if they think they have the right to turn, they just go ahead and turn. They don't care. They don't, if they have a stop sign, they're more likely to stop because theoretically they can be ticketed if they don't. We agree with the proposal to increase the buffer. We would prefer to see an increased buffer. And we would really prefer the right turn only, but if that's not legally available through the county or anything, then there's not much we can do about that. But that's my concerns. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Come on up. Gil, Jill, state your name first. Come to the microphone.
Are you
Come
going
to
to
the-
be as good as your wife?
There you go.
Yeah, that's my wife. Richard Fiore, 704 Sophomore Middle Court, Port Orange. Nobody's talked about the height of these buildings. I mean, is that a given that these can be 3-story? No, it's a given. In other words, that's part of the planning.
Yeah, that's what's allowed down there.
Okay. Well, can you put the thing up on the screen there, in it?
Which thing would you like?
The plans. You know, what you're showing.
The elevation.
Well, what's your question? Maybe
Okay, right in the front, our sign, Ashton Lakes. Okay, is there going to be a buffer behind that? Some sort of buffer of like maybe trees or bamboo bushes, something that would give us, not that they just look right in and see this massive building right in front of our entrance. You know, I was here at one zoning thing, and the mayor, I think it was Alan Green, was he the mayor?
Sure, why not?
He was at one
Okay.
point.
You know that guy?
He
At
said
one
that of
point,
all
like-
the developments around there, Ashton Lakes had the beautiful entrance, and now you're going to pull up and see this massive dinosaur, right? Don't get me wrong, I appreciate, buildings, but I mean, right behind us, can they put something between our easement and their frontage to make it, look?
We'll let the developer come up and talk about that,
All
because
right.
there's an area that the signage, that includes all that signage, that doesn't get touched.
Yeah, well,
But we'll let him talk about that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Young lady over here. Ma'am?
Hello, I'm Jeanette Pels. I live at 784 Crosswind Way in Ashton Lakes. So today I listened to what you said, and I'm relatively new to the development ideas that many of you have poured over a long time. But my mom was in assisted living for a while, and she had dementia. So I have some concerns relative to that. And it has to do with safety for the people who have dementia, as well as safety for people in the area. So you know more than I do in terms of what the development looks like, but I know that when they see things, they often want to go there. So I think there is good rationale for what we heard here. Some kind of shrubbery, trees, something, so that they feel it's more private, so they aren't encouraged necessarily to go beyond what they can see. Not that they want to enclose them, but we want to keep them somewhat safe. And the other thing is for those who can see or they get to the exit or any place they can get through to Oakwater, if they have dementia, how will they know how dangerous it is there to go a few more steps? I like the idea that they've moved the sidewalks back a bit, but hopefully they'll have huge signs because many of these people don't see well. So they may be having some visual constraints. So any way we can make it safe for them will also make it safe for people driving around in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Standing there. Come on up.
Thank you for letting me talk. Just for a few, I have a couple other points here.
Sir.
And I
Sir.
just want.
Your name and address
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. Robert Myers,
Thanks.
793 Crosswind Way, in National Lakes there. I've been a homeowner out there. I built my house out there and moved in 2002. And I think, Lance, I've talked to you before. I think you live out that way somewhere you live in Water's Edge. And I just challenge anybody on this board to come out there when school starts and look at what this traffic is, because we have traffic that comes from airport, comes down, uses our neighborhood as the turnaround to drop their children off because they don't want to get in the traffic going north up Williamson in the morning with the school. It's if you have to go to work, it's you got to be at work at 8. You better leave at 7 because you got to go through that school zone. With all due respect to the school zone, we need to obey that because there are a ton of kids up there every day. And I just want to say to these gentlemen here, I wish you the best of luck with this project. I'm probably one of maybe the only Medicare providers in this room, and Volusia County is the lowest Medicare reimbursement county in the state of Florida. And Medicare doesn't pay for any of this stuff. And we already have the Benton House out the street that's not even full. So, I mean, I wish you the best of luck. You can find the people that can actually afford assisted living, because I can tell you the baby boomers are pushing more to staying home and being taken care of the home. That is the real push now. It's not it to go into assisted living. I just wanted to say that the other thing that needs to be concerned is Ashton Lakes Homeowners Association has taken care of this property from the property that we own down Oakwater, where the big lake, where this big lake is, all the way to the front, and also the easement that you folks actually own. We've taken care of all that for 20 years, and there just needs to be a little bit more consideration of how this is going to be taken care of. Richard kind of mentioned it for a minute, but how all this is going to look when it's all done and over with. And I just can't imagine, and I was glad Lance said that he believes there only should be an entrance in there, not an exit, because when you create that exit there, I can't imagine a tractor trailer coming out there where that Miami curb ends and your entrance is going to go into the side there with all these kids and everything in school. I mean, it's going to be crazy, because now with this new neighborhood down behind us, all those kids are going to come up through our neighborhood too and go to the middle school that way. They're going to come up through our neighborhood, through the gated area. They're going to come up there. It's just going to be crazy. I mean, someone needs to really come down there and watch this traffic flow during the week, because it is amazing. The last thing I wanted to say, I'm out of time, is have they done the gopher turtle study on this area?
Sir, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? Last chance. Sure. Okay.
Jeremy Fairs, 801 Crosswind Way. It just appears some of the things that you guys brought up, that there's also going to be development on the north side of Oakwater. The entrance has been pushed closer to Williamson, and they haven't addressed, we've got an unnamed commercial property that's going to be at the south end of this development that we don't know what impact that's going to have. They mentioned deceleration lanes coming in off of Williamson in both directions, perhaps widening Oakwater. That whole little area right before the traffic light at Williamson is going to become a big deal. And, perhaps widening up to where this entrance and the subsequent one on the north side of Oakwater, a roundabout, I don't know. It's going to be very close to the traffic light, and there's going to be, it seems to be the major concern of people here. I also agree with Mr. Green that if perhaps some of the natural higher tree buffer that's existing could possibly be left, so that the visual, I mean, you really do have a beautiful, and it's a very neighborhood feel of community there. And to welcome new residents, to have it as pleasant You know, we talk about what was planned back when these things were approved. Okay, if we have to have an Oakwater, obviously this has been beaten to death, but I think it is the primary issue. Can we look at the future for aesthetics? And, you know, we're right, really, when you look at Pioneer Trail, et cetera, we're on the border of a more agricultural, agrarian, open, horse country type farm area, that looking at what can be done aesthetically in addition to dealing with the traffic jam that's going to happen right at that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I want to.
John, you're, no, we only have one opportunity, sir. You had 3 minutes.
Okay.
We're all set. If you want to speak to the developer, he may be able to chat with you about the question you had about the signage. Sir.
My name is Anthony Leyva, and I'm a retired deputy sheriff, and I lived here almost 40 years. I started off on the north end of Port Orange and moved down here because it was a nice country type area here, open, and everybody have a chance of building a new home. And I think Port Orange, you guys have gotten a little too big for your britches, building, and all of a sudden we're getting too tight in here, and we're thinking about people that want to live here and enjoy the scenery that we have here in Ashton Lakes and the rest of the area here. And I live right at 6203 Tortoise Creek Lane, and get the kids coming out for school and that, and the traffic jam from where they're going to build all the way down there is lined up all the way. And like that one guy said, you have these police officers controlling the area there at the school for the children, and it is a mess. Like he said, if somebody has to work out of our area, I don't even want to drive out of there in the mornings. It's a jam, and it takes a long time for that from where we live all the way over to the bridge for the people that have to work. And like you said, they're going to have to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock if you're going to have the new area that they're building the warehouses there, and across the street from us, and that's going to be a jam. We got to think about this. I mean, this here, these people here, they should be out farther. We're getting too big in Port Orange, like I'm saying, and we need to not have congestion. We're having too much congestion here, and I feel sorry for the people that enjoy this area. It's a beautiful area. I really love it, and I just would like something. Think about this, not just because we want people to come in here. There's other areas that they could build for nursing homes. Not why close us up? Why be tight? I don't understand that. And but I appreciate your understanding and think about the children that are going to be coming out. There's accidents out there, and there's some Monday mornings that we're losing our natural habitat too. There's deer. I get up in the morning to go to church in the morning on Sundays, and there's a couple of deer laying out there because somebody's just running through the lights or whatever, and they're killing them.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Anybody else? Sir?
Good evening. Steve Hagberg, 810 Whispering Wind Court, Ashton Lakes. One other concern I guess I'd like to bring up, and we're looking at the traffic just down at the end of Oakwater on Williamson Avenue. But there's another area I think we've got to be a little concerned with, because you can turn into Sterling Chase, come down Pheasant Ridge, and back up Oakwater. And I guess I've got a concern that, yeah, we're only looking at that corner, but people find out really quick they can go through residential areas and snake their way around. So I think we're going to find we're having a lot of traffic that'll affect Sterling Chase as well, and they're not here. coming in Sterling Chase or going out of Sterling Chase onto Williamson, just shooting across and coming back up. That traffic could become an issue and, you know, a safety issue as well. And how do we control that? Because, you know, those of us that have to get out onto Pheasant Ridge have to make a right turn, and we're going to be in competition with all that traffic that's going to try to snake their way back in on either one of these. It's not just this development, the one on the other side as well. So, thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, last opportunity. And we'll bring it back to the commission for any additional comments. Anyone have anything, John?
Well,
Anything else?
trying to get in touch with the tune of the people here, I do commend the fact there are not many times that the developer reaches out to the community to try to make concessions, to try to work with you. And from the beginning, I am also a tree hugger. That's why I enjoyed the vegetation barrier, the way they increased that. And from my perspective, my parents live in Cypress Head. They're your neighbors. So I'm also has to answer to them too, because they drive up and down there all the time too. So I understand what they're doing. And I guess from another perspective, by giving away the vegetation barrier, they're also giving away the parking lots that you guys may want. So that's, you gotta make concessions and come up with a balance. Now, the owner has a right legally to develop that as per what it is zoned and what it can be built for. And as a builder, if I was to look at the options that I had that would better the city, I want a business there that would allow me the least amount of traffic. And by all stands, a plaza, stores, things like that will have more impact to traffic. So this particular facility will have less traffic. I lived in Port Orange for over 25 years, and I've also taken my kids to the schools here too. And I don't see a lot of traffic impact problems from assisted facilities, but I do see them from the schools. I live off of Taylor Road. I have to deal with the high school and the middle school traffic every morning, and I do not look forward that school's starting up again, and I gotta live with that again. But you see, everyone's mentioning schools and schools and schools. Those are existing problems. We can't change that. We're a victim of our own success. I do not recall how much traffic I had 25 years ago on Dunlawton, and now I feel like I'm in the city, just going up in Dunlawton, just to go up to a restaurant or go shopping. So we have a beautiful city. It is recognized by the state as one of the top developing cities, but we are a victim of our success. And unfortunately, because of these growth spurts, these are the things that happen. We're a good city, but people are coming here, and from my perspective, my parents are elderly, they're retired. I just got my AARP card. so here's the thing I'm looking is, I'm also seeing the view that, you know, the city, I like the idea that we're having a diversity of assisted living facilities that allows me to stay in Port Orange. So I may be thinking for my parents down there down the road. So these are things, so when I look at things in the whole, I gotta come up with a balance to see what best benefits my city as well, and my children and my parents. So taking all these things into consideration, I do commend you both for coming up with a comfortable balance. And sometimes we can't get everything we want, but the fact that you guys were able to communicate civilly and go ahead, I've seen these meetings having a very different outlook with hostile crowds, and I commend you all for how you've been addressing this. So that is what I just wanted to reflect these for all of you to understand, you know. And again, the owner does have the right to develop things, so you got to take in consideration what would be best impact-wise for the city and its residents. And that's how I look at things from here. All right?
Thank you, John. Maria?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the statement that, you know, you guys talk about how crazy it is. I live out there too, and I've sat in years in the traffic going to the elementary school. So I know exactly where you're coming from. I totally get it. But like John said, that parcel's going to be developed. As our area grows, it's going to be developed regardless. It may not be developed this year. It may not be developed next year, but it's going to be developed. We can't stop that. What we can do is we can try to make the best choices that are the best options. I know for me, I would much rather see this out there than a commercial shopping center, or God forbid another apartment building. Because if another apartment building comes around, I might scream. So I would much rather see this. And I know where you guys are coming from. I totally feel your pain, but this truly is the best option. And we've been tasked with the problem of having to come up with the best solutions based on things that were approved in the 90s. And that's tough for us. That's tough for the current city council. So we truly try to do what's best with what we're given. So hopefully you guys can understand that.
Bo.
Well, given that John just got his AARP card, this might be an option for you
Absolutely.
in the near future. So you
He has a
think
room
about that.
reserved already.
I wondered if Penny could come up. I got a question.
Yes, sir.
If this development did not go forward, what are some of the options that could come later on?
So it has commercial future land use, and it has commercial zoning already. So pretty much under the PCD zoning, anything commercial they can ask for, or they could rezone to a conventional commercial category. That area would be appropriate for, like the other properties in that area that are conventional zoning is community commercial. So there's a whole list of uses. Shopping centers, probably the most intense, but like they said, with the floor area ratio, you are allowed by your entitlement rights that you have per the laws in the state of Florida to build up to about 170-something thousand square feet of commercial development.
So if a shopping center went in there, for instance, traffic congestion.
A lot worse.
Going to be a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
Access, ingress, egress, going to be a lot worse. Going to require more options as far as traffic going in and out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Cool, thanks. Lance?
My turn again?
It is your turn again.
I've been on this panel for 13 years, and I've watched Williamson grow, and I've watched it mature. I don't necessarily agree that some of the projects that go out there are what we have matured to be, but at the same token, there are people who own a property that are entitled to do business and to be able to develop it if need be. I sit up here with the mentality that I want to get the most I can get for the people who live there. I firmly believe that the landscape buffer on Oakwater is something that needs to be looked at within this MDA. And again, as we lay down the groundwork, we're voting today on an MDA. We're talking about an MDA that is going to set the groundwork for what this is going to be. I firmly believe that a left turn light into Oakwater would be something that's a necessity. And I firmly believe that maybe we could provide a emergency access only off of Oakwater so that we don't have an outward bound lane. Again, I think it's a great infill project. I think as a whole, from an impact of study, on the traffic, I think it is going to be less traffic. I don't think there's going to be a lot of traffic issues with this particular project. I think we got more up the road with Woodhaven than we do with this. But my concern with this would obviously be commercial vehicles pulling in and off of residential streets, commercial vehicles driving through residential streets to get to it. But and then the only thing I did not see on here was how they secure this property to keep people in or out. That's the only real thing I didn't see in the framework was the security of the property. But like I said, yes, it can be developed. I'd like to see this commission get the most we can get for the citizens and make this project the best that we can get out of it.
Cool. Newton?
I can't really push too hard against this because of what I know goes in community commercial, gas stations, shopping center of whatever type, big box store could go in there. Things that would, it's particularly like a large scale gas station like a Buc-ee's or some of the other ones that are big. even a truck stop could go in there, I believe. So, yeah, I would, be hard for me to push back against it, but one thing I would like to say here, rather than in commissioner comments, I think it's more timely here, is I mentioned it earlier, the traffic manual and the standards, the ratings on roads, what DOT says is a failing, Florida Department of Transportation says is a failing road, and versus what the manual says a road is at capacity. I had it here a second ago that on the next item, the capacity of Spruce Creek Road was at .76 or 79. One is considered at full capacity. Well, I drive that particular piece of road every day, and I can tell you sometimes I think it's over capacity. And what I'm getting at is the manual and the standards that we are applying by land development code, by state statute, and what we're having applied upon us by the county and the state Department of Transportation are not equal to what our community wants. Every time a shovel is stuck in bare ground in this community, I hear traffic. That's what's been 90% of what's been spoke about tonight was traffic concerns, both the commission and the audience and the public. I hear it all the time, and I just want to say we really need to urge our city commissioners or city councilmen and our community development to work together to think about traffic planning, and it's going to come up probably twice again tonight on traffic planning, and coming up with standards of our own that meet our community's desires. That's all.
Stan.
Well, I really can't vote, and so
No.
pretty much my concerns have been discussed, so I'll move on to you.
Yeah, I don't know how you engineer traffic around people. I see people out in front of my complex every day make U-turns because they're coming out of the pavilion. They took the wrong entrance thinking they can make a left turn. They can't, so they go up, they turn right, they go up, make a U-turn right in front of my complex. I don't know how you fix that. I talked to the police. They say, yeah, that's perfectly legal. You can't design that into a traffic planning engineering manual. I don't know how you do that. We all do silly stuff. The biggest concern is the traffic, I think. But in reality, it's all the other projects that are around here that have brought traffic to our community, and the fact that we all love where we live. We all love where we moved to from somewhere else. We all chose to be here. And the only other issue is the landscape and making sure that buffer, it looks attractive. And if you would be so kind, just a personal comment, to speak to Mr. Fiore or the Homeowners Association and reiterate how that signage gets handled. Just personal. I just wanted to let you know that.
Certainly.
Did you want to speak to it?
We've been, certainly again, Mark Watts, but we've been in touch with their attorney. Josh Wells has been in regular
Okay.
contact. We've actually, I spoke with him yesterday regarding pedestrian safety.
So he
and
needs to
things
be in
of that
touch
nature.
with them.
Yes, but we'll certainly talk.
Thank you very much.
Continue to talk.
All right, and that's really what I have. So, any other discussion? If there's none, if you'll call, I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve variance 19-65000001.
No, it's not a variance.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was it?
Case number.
Oh, case number 19-65000001 with staff recommendations.
I don't believe there were any, were there?
No.
I thought they did. You had some staff.
Not on this one.
No?
It's just
No.
approval.
Okay. All right.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. So if you'll call the roll with the exception of Commissioner Schmidt and Commissioners Green?
Yes.
Yes.
Both of me,
Yes.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. All right. Anybody who's leaving, you're not going to hang around with us? We have 5 more items that we have to get through, so you kind of hurry up. I'm sorry? You had a couple of public comments where you could make comments.
He meant personally outside after the meeting.
Oh, yeah, certainly, if you want to grab them before they...
I would go, he's right there. I would go
That has
grab
to be
that.
done through planning. I would talk to the developer and see.
And then Penelope.
And Penelope.
Wow, we have some folks hanging around with us tonight. Very good.
Well,
At least for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Okay, moving on. Case number 19-6000004, rezoning for 6015 Spruce Creek Road. Brianna.
Brianna Conlon King, planner. The proposed rezoning is to rezone approximately 7.5 acres from R10 SF single family residential to GPU government public use. If approved, the applicant intends to develop the site with a house of worship, an outdoor amphitheater, and a fellowship hall, and will comply with the requirements in the LDC. The requested rezoning was reviewed and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. I'm here if you have any questions, and the applicant is here and would like to make a presentation for you. And staff is recommends approval.
Dr.
Any questions?
Lanskin, we get to vote.
You got, yeah, I get to vote on this one. I might need to check to see who owns it. I'll hold my comments right now.
Newton.
My concern with this, and I like the idea of a church, and I like the idea, I'm looking forward to seeing the presentation. Right up front, my concern is the amphitheater. As an outdoor entertainment venue. I have been to some church services that I was compelled to wear earplugs at, and this is in the midst of a residential area. That's something I would be very cognizant of, with the noise from an outdoor entertainment facility.
It's just Scott singing with no microphone. It's okay.
You don't want to hear me sing out there.
Stan, you have anything for Brianna?
No, I would echo what Newton said. It's just about the noise on the amphitheater. That might be a future concern for the neighbors.
Bo?
What are you gonna do with that house that's on the property?
Before we get to that, this is for Brianna in case you had any staff questions.
No, I know.
Okay. Maria.
Nope, waiting for the presentation.
John.
yeah, I'm gonna wait.
I have one quick question for Brianna. How can a local road have a maximum capacity of 12,744 vehicles and a collector road have a maximum capacity of 12,744 vehicles? It would
You
seem
mean
a
like
local
how is it
road.
the same?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
I see.
all the
It would
same.
seem a local road would have lower capacity.
They're all going one way.
Penelope Cruz Planning. It's based on the design, so the IT manual has a specification based on the width of the road, the type of curbing on the road, et cetera, and that's how they determine the capacity of the road. So it's based on the way the road is designed.
See, there's that manual again.
Yeah, yeah, that manual, yeah. All right, if the applicant would like to give us a little presentation here.
Let's see how loud you are without the mic, Scott.
How loud without the mic?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
all
we
right.
can talk about this amphitheater thing. No,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Kirshner. I am the lead pastor of Christ the King Community Church in Port Orange. I appreciate your time and consideration of the request for rezoning of 6015 Spruce Creek Road. I moved to Port Orange in 1980 with my family, and I lived in the Woods subdivision, about a half a mile from the property that we are now discussing. I was 8 years old at the time. I would have never thought that I'd be a pastor one day, and most who knew me as a teenager would agree. But through God's grace, here I am. God's taken me on quite a journey. I've been in ministry now for 30 years. I've served as a pastor for the people of Daytona Beach, Palm Coast, McDonough on the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia. And after being away from my home, I felt God calling me back here to plant a church in Port Orange where I grew up. In faith with my wife and 5 children, I did just that. In the summer of 2010, a small number of us began meeting at Cypress Creek Elementary School, and here we are 9 years later. Same community that we love, same school meeting place, and a lot of great ministry and memories. I've been able to celebrate much with our community: graduations, seeing kids off to college, career launches, weddings, and births. I've got to witness a lot of blessings here, and I'm grateful for that.
I've also walked alongside of those who have mourned through the tragedies of loss and sickness and death. It has been my great privilege to serve the people of this community, especially in their times of greatest need. I feel strongly that God has placed these people in my life and placed me in theirs. I have the honor of leading an amazing church family. I believe that together we have made a real difference in this community. There are about 300 people connected to our church. On any given Sunday, we have about 150 in attendance. We are a church of the community and for our community. We've been able to help many young people and their families, and people from all walks of life, and people in all seasons of life. This is the work that God has called us to, and we look forward to continuing this work for many years to come. As we move towards a new decade, we are excited to have a property to call our home. We believe that 6015 Spruce Creek Road to be that new home. In the development of this land, we want to save as much of the natural beauty of this property as possible. We plan to build a church home that is pleasing to the eyes and useful and helpful to the people who live nearby. It is our desire to enhance that neighborhood and bring value to the surrounding areas. Our church home will be a place where the people in the surrounding area are most welcome to come and enjoy. I am thrilled that God has connected me with a local engineer, Mr. Harry Newkirk, to my left behind me, a local architect, Robert Hall, and a local general contractor, Eric Olson. They are all working with me on a beautiful plan and site development. Each of them love our community and have the community's best interest in mind as well. I speak on behalf of my Christ the King family when I say we are grateful for your help in making our dream of a place to call home a reality. Thank you for your help in rezoning this location. God bless you.
Thanks, sir. Lance, you have any questions for?
Not right now.
Newton?
I thought we were gonna get a look-see presentation of what we were gonna see.
We're just talking about rezoning, so we're in the process of the site development, and so there is no, I apologize, no presentation on
No,
that.
see, he knows the gig. We don't need to look at design. Could change. It's not our gig.
No, that's true.
He's a smart guy.
He is, that he is. No, I have no real questions on that. I'll have some for staff later.
Okay. Stan, you good? Oh?
Just the house question.
The plan is to demolish it. It's condemned currently.
Yeah, it's
Oh, it is?
occupied on and off. But I can move it.
Legally?
You trying to sell it?
Huh?
Are you trying to sell it?
No.
Maria?
No, I just want to say, kind of reiterate what Scott said about Christ the King. They're very, very involved in the community. They've done great things in this community. I love to see that. I don't like when we get the people up here that never do anything in the community. I like the people that get involved and do a lot with the community, and Scott and the church have done a lot in the community. So my only concern, like everybody else, was the amphitheater and the neighborhood around. Other than that, I think this is a great location for them.
John?
My house is almost on the very top part of that map. You can almost make it
I
out.
see it. I do. I see it.
I actually go to take my dog to the old children's park, to the dog park there. So it is actually very close to my living environment. And I know from the past how difficult Neighbors was to first get developed there, because they were very concerned that a commercial building in the middle of a residential area, and so Neighbors had to make a lot of concessions, as I recall, turn it into something that was built to look like a house, which they did, and they basically turned it into a very positive environment that the locals like to go to. With that being said, I'd like this idea to go too. And somebody's touched one of the concerns that I have. This entire Circle community is a residential area, and they're elderly people, there's people that like their privacy, and my concern is how a new environment can affect the existing environment. And if they're putting amphitheaters out there and they're having a lot of concerts out there and you know, things that can cause a lot of sound to carry through the neighborhood, that would be a concern to me. I go to Our Lady of Hope, inside, indoors. It's very private, but my fear is intentions are good, the area is good, but the amphitheater, the flat stage, sound systems, speakers, bands, and then you have this quiet little area sitting in the middle of here, and then they're gonna have to hear services every Sunday or whatever events are being done by the church. And that is my concern. And that's what I basically am concerned about.
Cool. Thank you very much. Hey, Brian, or Penny, one of you two, if you could, how big a building or how much square footage of building can we have on this property? Do you know? 7.5 acres, and do we have that number at all?
Jeffrey Cruz Planner. So about a quarter of it's wetlands that can't be built on. The rest cannot be built on. Well, I mean, the code basically is no impacts first. So then there's buffers. So that's where we try to aim for, is no impacts to the wetlands first. Then you kind of back into the size because you have to deal with parking and things. So based on what kind of square footage they have, they're going to have space to provide the parking. So, you know, it kind of self-limits itself that way. With regards to the amphitheater, we do have the city noise ordinance. It's in a residential neighborhood, so it would have to abide by that same residential noise ordinance. But I can let them speak to whether that's a concession or not in their plans. But they would have to abide by the city's noise ordinance.
Right. Thank you very much.
Can I speak to that, Mr. Chairman? Don't go anywhere yet.
Real quick.
Really quick? I get 3 minutes. So, changing this to GPU, okay, which allows the zoning now to be a church, right? This particular property is unique, and I know that several people have dealt with this property trying to save the historical trees, and it has a lot of historical trees on it. And here's a perfect opportunity. I understand, you know, if we change the zoning, great, that there would just be all natural parking in an area like this. Don't need concrete parking lots. We don't need to create all these asphalt parking spots in a property like this. Could it be written within this, once it's changed and they do what? We come to the site plan?
So, so if it gets approved, first their zoning has to get approved. If their zoning is approved, then they would move forward with a site plan. The land development code allows for overflow parking to not be concrete, to have alternative surfaces like grass and things like that. ADA spaces have to be paved.
I get that.
If they were to do all their spaces other than ADA without pavement or concrete, that would likely require a variance. Right now, the code is just set up for, the code allows for spaces to be an unlimited amount to be reduced if you're going to save more trees or to preserve more of that natural area, so they can reduce the width to reduce the parking, and they can reduce the length a little bit with overflow onto grass. So those are ways that the code already addresses, allowing for more green space with the parking standards. And then again, any kind of overflow above the minimum can be grass or natural. Anything above that would likely require a variance.
I mean, this particular piece of property is going to be challenged because of the historical trees, is it not?
Correct. Yes. They're engineers here and can address. I believe you've already done a tree survey, or you're working on a tree survey right now. But they would have to follow our tree preservation ordinance as well. So yeah, they have limitations.
But so here's an opportunity to be creative with this particular property and say, look, if we have to get a variance to say we're going to do the ADA spaces in concrete and however many spaces in concrete, and the rest of them are going to be natural, we're going to limit the amount of storm retention they need. We're going to decrease the amount of damage that they're going to do to the overall site. And this is a site that has to be, it's unique. I mean, it's a unique site, and we really need to do this one right.
Harry Newkirk Engineering, Ormond Beach. The layout of this site is going to be unique. It's not going to be your typical square parking lot type of thing. We're going to meander around the trees. We're going to save a lot of big trees. The churches, we're going to meet that requirement with the big historical trees. They'll all be saved, every single one of those trees. And we would like to do something like that, a variance on parking to have more natural. That would be something that we're very interested in doing. The layout is, like I said, is meandering to save these trees. We're trying to make the church blend with the environment on that site. We have the wetlands towards the rear. That's a good buffer. We also will have all the tree stands, so it'll be a unique layout that you typically don't see. I kind of like to design something like that every once in a while. You just
Didn't you say it was 25% wetland? Somebody said that.
It's about
25%.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about that. And just to kind of add Tim found something for institutional uses that don't have that typical everyday use. The code actually allows by right 50% of the parking to be grass.
Now we're getting somewhere. There you go.
Nice.
Don't even need a variance for that, huh? What a great idea.
You know, but there's a great
Somebody's
church
thinking.
on Williamson. Have you looked at that maybe taken that over?
So we agree with you. That's the way we would design it, to have 50% grass parking, save the trees, a nice natural kind of environment to the church. And we'll work on that amphitheater part with the sound, and when we bring it to the site plan process, if it's rezoned, as we're requesting tonight. Also, doing that grass parking like that, we can blend more into how you'd want to do stormwater in this site, because this area you got to do nitrogen, phosphorus removal, and that blends itself perfectly for that type of stormwater treatment, where you go into dry facilities before you get into the wet pond, because it'll have a wet detention pond with a fountain in it by the wetlands. Will discharge in the wetland area. So that's smart stormwater design. That's where stormwater's going. You used to just put stormwater in a wet pond and discharge. You can't do that really anymore. It's getting more difficult. So it's a perfect site for that. I think it's a perfect location. Utilities are all there. Traffic, roads got capacity. It could be a residential subdivision, 30 lots. In the zoning, gets you around 225 trips a day. The church around 150. Really no trips on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday versus a daily. So it's a reduction in traffic. It would have 2 connections, driveway connections, which is required for safety. And we all know that is if you got to have emergency access. So I look forward to possibilities of designing this church to the next level if it's rezoned tonight. If you got any questions.
Any other questions? Where'd I end up? Lance?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Did you have something?
For staff, will we rezoned, if we rezone tonight, will they have to come back to us with their plans? No.
I know what I was going to ask. Noise ordinance.
Yeah.
So is there decibels and times and all that kind of thing that we
That
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
we have
gonna
in
be one of
place?
my questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So,
I'd
so
like to
Penny
know
talked to you
more.
about the noise ordinance and how that would apply even if this is zoned to a different category. If you project noise into a lower category, so residential being our lowest category of decibel levels, once you project into that lower category, at those property lines in residential, you'd have to meet that threshold, and it is based on times of day.
What are they?
I mean, I could
For
get you a copy
commercial,
of the code.
if this is gonna be
It's not gonna
commercial
help you much
zone.
though. Yeah, it's residential is our lowest decibel level that's allowable. I can get you the actual levels if that's something you'd want, but I can just tell you that
After 11 p.m. they couldn't do anything. They couldn't do concerts or
think it's
anything
even
after
earlier
11
than that.
p.m.
Well,
Was it earlier?
But even then,
I'm looking at weekend services when people are off and they're relaxing, drinking their coffee, watching TV, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, it'd be you gotta
They
be
could hear
it's
worse
gotta be
things.
reasonable. Obviously, you might have a lawnmower on Sunday too, right?
Yeah,
And
well,
that's something
again,
that
that's a sound that would happen, and that's accepted because of the fact that that's what people are doing on the weekends.
It's still the level though.
But
It doesn't matter
there's
what
a
the source
decibel
is.
and a restriction when it crosses over from residential to commercial. I just want to clarify, I'd like to know the differences between the two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else? You all set? Yeah. Look at that. All right. Thank you very much. Any public comment? Anybody have any questions? Or I'm sorry, everybody have any? Oh.
It's 7 a.m., 10 p.m., 50 decibels.
Whoa. I'm writing this down. Was that the
7 a.m.
7 a.m., 10 p.m., 50 decibels.
And that is for commercial?
Well, they're projecting into a residential. That's the residential standard.
And
so
that
they
was
have
how
to
many
follow
decibels?
50.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Because you have to use the lower category because that's where they're
Because of the
impacting.
residential.
Okay, and this is 7 days a week?
That was my question too.
May I
so-
speak to that for just a moment? The whole amphitheater.
Just a second.
Penelope.
Penelope. As Bo was mentioning, is that does that matter as far as the day? It's 50 decibels any day of the week. All right.
But then in that time frame,
Right, in that time, but I was just worried about the days, is there a
Right.
difference on weekends?
Yep. Did you have a comment you wanted?
I just wanted to say that outside area, there's some beautiful trees there that we want to preserve, and it's a shaded area, and our goal would be for it to be a common area used by the public where they're welcome to come. I see us putting some maybe picnic benches out there, place for
garden.
people just to gather, sit, enjoy, maybe put a few cans of bug spray out there too, because it's bad sometimes. So our goal isn't to go out there and to blast heavy metal Christian music at the neighbors and to
Never thought
freak
I'd
them
heard
all
those
out.
words put
So
It's a thing.
But it is a thing.
It is a
it is a
I
thing.
know.
Yeah. So
I'd love to
anyways,
see a
but
community garden out there for all those neighborhoods.
yeah.
I think that'd be amazing.
Sit out there and have a beer. Yeah, it'd be nice.
All right.
I have a question.
You guys are all
if-
planning here.
If possible. Tell me a little bit of how your weekend services are. Are they basically Sunday services?
Yes.
And then you have like community projects throughout the week and stuff like
Yes.
that. Your Sunday services, are they outdoor? Are they indoor?
No, they're indoor.
They're all indoor.
Yes.
And then the amphitheater would be for special celebrations.
Like I said, again, a gathering place for people who may want to gather out there. There may
Uh-huh.
be some kind of a function where we want to go outside. The weather's nice, the bugs aren't bad in a place. But also, it sits on that corner, and so we wanted to, again, enhance the natural beauty, have some kind of a paved area where people who walking by may want to stop, sit, enjoy. Just a place that's inviting for our community.
So you're not gonna
Okay,
have big
thank you.
sound speakers out there or anything like
That's not the plans and the goal at this point.
Yeah,
Our job isn't to tick off our neighbors. It's really to do our best to try to help them
And that certainly moves into a different
enhance.
area that's enforcement.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, we
that-
can't
that's-
cover that in the zoning
Yeah.
hearing.
It's being on Port Orange Family Days board, when you say amphitheater and you say concerts,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
my mind is thinking, okay? So when you hear amphitheater here, I'm thinking
Yeah.
a full-blown
It's on a
heavy
smaller scale,
speaker,
again, a common
stage.
area. Yeah.
Okay.
Is Scott with his karaoke machine?
Let me take this. Any public comment?
Yeah, I want
Any-
people to come to the church, not be driven.
Is there any public comment? Any public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. Better hurry up. I'm
Run.
sitting back there in the corner, couldn't see you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Legath. I live at 470 Champagne Circle in the Falcon Crest subdivision, so kind of right over there. I'm actually going to speak in favor and ask that you guys really consider. I know it's a little different than what it's normally like up here. As a homeowner, I've been a homeowner in the area for about 5 years. My husband and I, and we have a 4-year-old daughter. I also happen to be a member of the church. I've been there since the church started, and I actually had the privilege of being the youth leader there for the last 8 years or so. Not anymore because of my daughter, but I want you guys to understand that the outreach that we do for the community, and right now we're far from the community, and it's a little hard to really get to the neighborhoods. Being in this location would be a huge blessing to the people around the community. We do a lot with Spruce Creek High School especially, and I think having the church so close to the high school would open up a whole area of that for teens, and really that's a big thing. They don't have a place to go or a place to feel welcome or wanted, and that's kind of our goal, is to make the community feel welcome and wanted in that area. I know you're concerned about the sound of the amphitheater. I will tell you, we don't get too crazy, and maybe hearing some Christian music around the area is a good thing. But I just want you to really think about, and then speaking as a community member, I would rather see a church go there than more homes. I would love to not have more homes in the area. It's very saturated as is. And I would like to see something that really is only going to bring traffic 1 or 2 days a week versus a ton of homes being put in there, having traffic constantly in that area. I know that we're looking at keeping that historical beauty of it, and I think that that's going to be beneficial to the area, and really keep the neighbors happy with that as well. So, thank you.
She just wants to be able to walk to church.
I don't blame her. That's the whole idea.
Less traffic.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Anyone else? Seeing none? I'd entertain a motion on this one.
I make a motion to approve case number 19-600000004.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. If you call the roll, please.
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Yes.
Bo Bofamy?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes.
Stan Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan?
Yes. Congratulations, gentlemen. Moving on to
Karaoke night.
there you go.
Lance is the star.
Case number 18-50000002. It's subdivision final plat and plans for the Springs at Port Orange subdivision.
Evening.
This time I have Penelope.
You're stuck with me tonight. Penelope Cruz Planning. So in 2018, as you all are aware and can see under construction, the applicant received approval of the site plan for the Springs at the Springs multifamily development that's there. It's on the 29.5 acre property. As part of that site plan approval design, they did foreshadow to staff that they intended on coming back in and subdividing the property to create a separate lot for the apartment complex and the two out parcel lots. And so because they foreshadowed that, staff anticipated and the development team anticipated and designed the site plan for the apartments with the requirements for the subdivision in mind. And so the current site plan that's under construction right now has taken into consideration the specific subdivision design requirements to create this subdivision here. And it meets the code requirements for the subdivision. There are currently no uses for those two out parcels, just kind of anticipating those future questions, but that is, that's not in play right now. They just want to create the lots. So the apartments that are under construction right now are going to be, the site plan for that is going to be constructing all the infrastructure, the common infrastructure for the subdivision. So what's under construction right now is also including all the common infrastructure, the utilities, stormwater, the pond, the central pond is for not only the apartments but the two out parcels. The traffic improvements that are being constructed on Summer Trees and will be constructed on Williamson, all those things that typically would go with the commercial subdivision are under construction right now with the site plan. So access for lot 3 and 1 would be off Summer Trees. Only lot 2 will have an access, a main full access from Williamson. Once this lot is developed, this area here that is currently the emergency access point for White Palm will have an easement and continue to be an emergency access point for White Palm, and it'll also be a secondary emergency access for the apartments out that way. But the main access point is here off Summer Trees and for lot 3 as well. So like you see, it includes 3 lots. Lot 1 is the central apartment complex and the 2 commercial out parcels. All the concurrency reviews were conducted primarily for the larger lot at that site plan level. Traffic has already been addressed, but will also continue to be addressed once there's actual end users for the 2 commercial. But for the main apartments lot, that was already addressed with the site plan there. They entered into a fair share agreement with the city, paid for that, and are also constructing improvements in the area as well. When there's an actual end user for the 2 commercial lots, that would be looked at again for those specific uses as well. So staff is recommending approval. There are 2 conditions. The plans do need to be revised before going to City Council, just to address some minor formatting comments. So subject to that and subject to review by the attorney's office after that resubmittal, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
John, any questions?
No, it was well put together, thought out. They planned ahead, and I have nothing to say at this point.
Okay, Maria?
Nope, I'm good.
Bo?
Looking good.
Stan?
Yeah.
Newton?
I'm contrary to that. I remember when we approved this, it was a swap between this and the parcel up at
Madeline.
No, not Madeline. Willow Run.
Willow Run.
Oh, Willow Run, yes, thank you.
And moving a commercial node down there. And I guess I didn't pay a whole lot of attention that we also had a commercial node still existing here. I guess, and somehow I missed that. But actually, I don't think I did. But you know, we're getting, again, with the traffic and what the community wants and stuff, it's just a big concern to think that one of these lots or both of these lots could potentially have something with a drive-through window with traffic wrapped around the building and out onto the street. I get beat to death with traffic. I hear that every week. Somebody tells me about how bad our traffic is, and I know it's not that bad because I go other places. I mean, Ormond has a lot more problems with traffic than Port Orange does, but we're not Ormond. We're not Orlando. We're Port Orange, and we want it to stay a certain way. But that's my concern with it, how much traffic it'll produce.
Stan? My question, the only concern I had was on lot 2. The entrance there doesn't line up with is that the pavilion entrance there opposite it? Or no, is that
That's where it goes in at the other side of the.
The second entrance.
There's it's an existing stabilized drive, and so that's not changing what's there right now.
No, I'm sorry. Opposite that, on the other side of Williamson, there's a drive, and
I'm not sure where this is. The can you see
right
this?
above where the item number 5 is, right above there, that road on the opposite, that run right there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that into U.S. Foods? Or
Yes.
Is that, okay. And
Yes.
it does-
But this existing cut right here it's existing right now.
Oh, they're going to use that one?
That's the one that's there right now is where it lines
All right.
up.
Because there really is, there's no way to take a left turn then from Williamson into that road, into that entrance.
It wouldn't be a good idea.
No, it would. It's not intended. I believe it's probably gonna be a right in, right out. And the applicant's here and can speak to
Oh,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't realize, sorry about that. Didn't know we had you here.
Good evening, Luke Kulich with Zev Cohen and Associates. I'm the project engineer representing Continental Properties. I think Penelope touched on all the critical items, but yeah, the intent is basically when those out parcels develop in the future, there will be traffic impact analysis done, and at that point, they will determine if there's feasibility to make left turns out of that lot. But as it stands, you're correct.
Okay.
Can I
And yeah, I was going to say, if you'll...
Well, you didn't call on Lance, just FYI.
No, I know that.
Oh, okay.
I think you did it deliberately.
No.
But you guys plan on there being like little shopping centers here. There's
Hey,
not
hey,
a
wait,
chance
we
for a
didn't call him
drive-through.
Lance yet.
Oh, I thought you said I could go.
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was addressing the drive-through.
I have no comment.
Somebody throw something at
Well
me.
played, gonna do sir, that well to you.
played. There's no intention for anything with a drive-through or anything here, is there?
That's an unknown at this point. It's a,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
commercial.
I thought we
out
discussed
parcel
that before, is why I asked.
It's sort of an
We
unknown at
discussed
this
it with
time.
Lance.
Do you have a presentation or anything that you
I
want
don't
to?
have a presentation.
Okay, I just want to make sure we
This
didn't...
was presented previously
Yeah,
with
we-
the Springs Apartments project, so we're simply seeking subdivision of
Let me
the
see if
property.
they have any questions for you
Yes,
then
sir.
while you're standing here. John? You?
No, I have no questions.
Okay.
I'm familiar with it from the past. We've
Yep.
gone through it, so.
And Burry already had her say. Bo?
No, I've been watching it go up. I like the elevation that you're developing there. Looks good, so I don't have anything.
Stan? Nothing? Newton?
I'm good.
Lance?
I think this is something that we knew was coming all along in the overall scheme of the project being approved years back, and you know, these little out parcels and these little stores that are going out front are commonplace. And again, ultimately, when it comes back to us, that traffic will be analyzed, and we'll see what happens to the traffic, so we can take it from there. But overall, we knew this was coming.
And a lot of it maybe just be local traffic, which is the point, and,
Right.
and walking traffic. Okay. Anything from? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Is there any public comment? Anyone further? Nope. Bring it back to the commission. I'd entertain a motion on this one if you want to.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 18-50000002.
A second. Oh,
That's
well.
subject to city attorney review.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, subject to city attorney review and
Yeah, I was
staff,
gonna say,
yeah,
there's
staff
two recommendations.
recommendations.
A second.
All right, so motion is to approve along with the staff recommendations. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
City
Okay.
attorney review.
And city attorney review.
Yes, those are the two. All right, that's a motion and a second. If you want to call the roll.
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Yes.
Bo Bofamy?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes.
Stan Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan?
Yes. Congratulations. All right, moving on to, I don't know what item this is here on the agenda here. Where are we at? We're on 8?
4.
Hmm?
1904.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to case number 19-40000004. First Amendment to the Riverwalk amended and restated Master Development Agreement. Mr.
We
Berman.
get Tim,
Hey,
look at
nice to
us.
have you tonight. Hi.
I'll let Penny rest her voice. Tim Berman, Community Development. The request is to amend the current Riverwalk MDA and concept plan. The proposed amendment is to do just three things. The first is to defer the recording of the subdivision plat, which is at that bottom corner there. It's a 9-lot plat then. To defer that to next year, September 20th, 2020. Also to defer certain phase 1 site improvements that pertain to private development, which we'll get into a little bit more as to what those specifically are. And the third is to allow for possible time extension if needed between the developer on that one with the city manager approval then. So those are the three things that this amendment's proposing to do. The current MDA currently, like we said, requires the subdivision to be recorded in September 20th, 2019, and all the phase 1 improvements except the restaurant to be done in 19. Again, we're deferring those to next year. There's no change in the completion schedule for the 23-foot wide public trail and park, along with the associated site improvements for that feature, or the bearing of the FP&L power lines, or the underground utility improvements that were put essentially under where the trail was going then. Those are all still not changed in this MDA, still have that 2019 deadline then. This is kind of just a plan to show basically what is kind of the phasing, how it's being broken up a little bit more. Basically the area in blue, which is where the trail is going to be, and those utility improvements we spoke about are located. Those still to be completed in 2019. The area in green, which is more of the private development, the parking lot, the turn lanes into the development, the restaurant on the point, the stormwater for the parking lot, and the landscaping, those would all be deferred to 2020 timeframe then. There's also proposals in the MDA to allow for temporary parking if the developer chooses to reopen that existing marina at the, which is shown on there, that's currently closed. If they reopen it, they'd need at least 13 spaces. This allows for temporary parking, which has to basically be serving only until 2020. Again, at the time frame there. And then also, as we said, basically the authority for the proposal for the city manager and the developer to extend those deadlines in terms of completion of projects then. So that's basically what the request is. The applicant's here to further discuss their proposed MDA amendment.
Any questions for Tim? John? Murray? Oh?
Yeah, I have a question about the boat slips. Are those open to the public? Or
What's that?
The boat slips.
The marina up there,
Yeah.
it would be open to the public. Right now, they've closed it.
Uh-huh.
So if it does reopen, the public could purchase the slips
Use
then.
those. Okay, I
Yeah, they-
apologize. I didn't know the answer. Okay.
Stan? No. Newton?
I'm waiting.
Okay. Lance?
Who is the developer?
Right there.
It's Halifax River Partners is developer and owner of the property, and they're here to speak on their request.
Okay.
Tim, I have a question for you. Well, I'm sorry, Lance, you done?
Yep.
I have a question. So, the big block that's sitting there, I guess, on Ridgewood in the center that's not marked at all as any phase, is that Cardwell property?
No, that's the former Dave's Pest Control property.
Oh, okay.
Which is right there. So that was not included. This is the original proposed concept plan. Again, the concept plan itself, nothing's changing on there, but this is basically what that MDA essentially covers, that outlined area.
Where does Cardwell sit then?
Cardwell would be sitting right here.
Okay.
As part of the property, as part of the property exchange. If certain improvements are done, they would get Cardwell, which is mainly needed for some of the phase 1 and mostly phase 2 improvements then.
Who owns Cardwell now?
Currently the city of Port Orange.
And they want that for temporary parking? Is that what I read in here? for the
Correct.
marina?
Basically, the use of that property for temporary parking. As you know, basically there is the Cardwell property. The structure itself is there's demolition permit in process for that. Then the existing pavement would remain then, so that would still be under city ownership. So the idea is that in terms of a license agreement with the city, they could use part of that pavement for parking to support that marina, or develop temporary parking on their own property.
Who's demolishing the building?
The developer, Halifax River Partners, demolishing the building.
Okay.
And that again was all written into that past MDA that was approved to demolish that building as part of the improvements then.
Was there a time frame on that time deadline?
2019, in September. That basically, like you said, the demolition permit is in process right now.
I don't know what that means.
We're reviewing the permit to do it then.
Okay.
So it's
So they have-
an ongoing
they
an improvement there. Just as the site being cleared, that's currently going on there. They are making improvements there.
Okay. All right. Thanks. If you'd like to hear from the applicant, thanks, Tim.
Good evening, Jeff Brock, 444 Seabreeze Boulevard, Suite 900, Daytona Beach, Florida, representing the applicant Halifax River Partners, and its principal, Joseph Atanisowski, is here to answer any questions you might have. Basically, the generation for this request was when the MDA was developed, there was an active restaurant, Riverboat, in operation, and next to it was a temporary parking lot. The thought was when the linear park was constructed, there would be no more vehicular access out to the point, so the parking lot needed to be relocated to the west of the linear park. And that was part of the timing frame. When we delivered the linear park, we also needed to do the parking lot because we had an ongoing business. The hurricane destroyed the restaurant. There is no operating business out there. Essentially what we're asking for is to time the parking lot when we build the restaurant on the point. And that is still scheduled for next year. So we're not asking for a delay in the restaurant on the point. We're just saying we need the parking lot to be timed with our business, that since we don't have an operating business right now. Per the request of the city, we are clearing the parking lot lands. We're gonna seed it, and we're gonna have a green parking lot that the city can use for special events. We're gonna enter into an easement agreement that during 4th of July or whatever, that y'all can park on there as overflow parking. So there will be parking, it's just not gonna be paved. And so we're only asking for a 12 months extension on paving that parking lot and putting in the stormwater that goes with that. The other request was not to plat at this time. We're not exactly sure where those lot boundaries should be. It really doesn't serve the public. They don't know when they drive by whether that's subdivided land or not, and we have no, the thought behind the plat was that we could separately mortgage or sell the lots. For example, the financing for a high-rise condo is very different than that for a restaurant on the point, and so we're not at that point that we really need that, so we'd ask for a deferral for 12 months of that as well. Also, there's a request in there to give the city manager the authority to give short extensions to this timeline, because, for example, right now we have some pavers on back order for the linear park, which is going to delay it a couple weeks. We don't want to have to come back to you and the city commission if there's a short delay, because this is a multi-year project and things happen.
I think they're there now.
Are they there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Problem solved. Problem solved.
Yeah.
But, this being a multi-year project, we'd like to have the authority in the city manager to grant short delays without having to come back through this process again. So that's our request. Here to answer any questions you might have.
Lance?
No, I don't got any right now.
Newton?
I'll wait a little bit.
Good.
Bo?
No questions.
Maria?
Nope.
John?
No.
When you say short delay, is that what it says in the MDA? Short delays are allowed to be approved? Short
Well,
changes?
it'd be in the city manager's discretion, so.
For any change?
For a change, yes.
You could change it by a year.
I guess in theory, if he wanted to do that, I mean,
Well,
I don't
you're
know if you
saying
want to
sh-
put restrictions on that,
Well, no,
I
you're
wouldn't think he
saying
would, because politically
You
he would.
just stated short delays.
That's what we would be asking for.
But the MDA says he'll be able to approve any change in time. So it could be, you could come back on September 20th, 2019 and ask for another year, or 2020 and ask for another year, and it would just be between you and the city manager then.
We
That's
could
what it's
put-
giving
we-
you the power
we-
to do, is that right?
Well, it's not our power, it's the city manager's power.
I understand that.
The
So
city
you're giving-
manager can say no.
I understand that too, yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you want to amend it to some time frame, that wasn't our intent.
Okay,
I mean,
alrighty.
I would assume
Cool.
you'd say
Any,
no if it
good.
was.
Anything else?
So you were just trying to avoid any additional delays by getting the city manager to approve any
For things that, like, for example, we're currently being held up by Florida Power and Light in this paver issue. You
Right.
know, that to come through this process, the planning board and 2 city commission meetings for, a short delay, I would just like to have that flexibility into the city manager's, discretion.
Well, given how long we've been waiting for this, I don't see any better options.
Yeah.
So,
Nobody counted on the riverboat sinking.
True.
And again,
So-
we're not asking for the main
Yeah.
things that the cities, I would think the citizens are interested in, the park. We're not asking for a delay of that. The restaurant on the point, we actually have a letter of intent for an operator on that, or the condo tower. So the things that are important, I don't think a parking lot is
it
that
gonna be
important.
Sweetwater? Is that,
We'll have people water skiing
Showing
behind
your
it.
age, Bo.
I think they're gonna call it the showboat.
Yeah.
Listen, by the end, Sweetwater was, so.
So are you demolishing the Cardwell
Yes,
funeral home?
yes.
When do you expect to have that completed?
We got the builder here.
We're working through some permitting issues right now.
If you wanna come up here, and that way everybody knows who you are?
Hello, I'm Scott Tobin with SAT Development, 1368 North US Highway 1, Ormond Beach. I'm the general contractor for the developer. We're working through some permitting issues with the Cardwell Funeral Home. We did do an asbestos survey in there last week, and there is asbestos present in there. So there is abatement that needs to be done before we can demolish the building. We're in the process of getting that abatement. That's a 10-day notice to the Department of Environmental Protection. And we're in the process of getting quotes from asbestos abatement contractors. We don't have the licensing to do that, but we are in that process. We've been in discussion with the city staff, and it should be done within the next month, 2 months on the outside, depending on how quick I can get the asbestos going.
How old is that building? It's gotta be older than I am.
No.
Which is only 21, but,
I believe it's 1971.
the year I was born.
They're sure not any older than John.
He's got his AARP card.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, really. All right. Anything else?
I'm sure you're probably aware that we're ready to see something happen down there. We've been waiting a long, long time for some activity, and hopefully we're not gonna come back here for another request for a delay or a setback, and that we're gonna see some shovels in the dirt here before long.
We should have the park done on time, or close to it, depending on the paper situation.
You mean in 2020?
2019.
2019?
That's
Under
still-
construction.
yeah.
Pouring concrete, I know.
They already, didn't you get a notice that they were starting to clear? I got a notice from, it was actually a Facebook notice that they were clearing the area.
Right.
So it's in stone. So I'm happy to say that the asbestos permitting and all that, and the paperwork, when they commit as a builder to that type of paperwork, it's happening. It
Yeah.
really is. It's not hearsay.
I have a question. Tim, can you answer questions for me on this? Is this, I feel really uninformed on this because I haven't been on that CRA in a long time, and I haven't been paying I haven't been paying attention except for the clearing. Has this gone through the CRA already?
This amendment request or the original
Yeah.
MDA?
Pardon?
The amendment request or the
Yeah.
original MDA?
No, this amendment request. Do they have to see it?
It will go through the CRA after it goes through the planning commission.
Okay, so we get it first,
Yeah.
then they get it. Okay.
So we scheduled for the CRA review along with city council probably same night then.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah.
No?
I have to say that I'm very reluctant to extend anything on this. When this MDA came before the planning commission before, was very subtle that I did not want to see another plan or continuation, that something needed to be done there. I'm happy to see that we're clearing land, hate to see the trees go, but yeah, it's a given what it is. But is there any idea of how much longer we're going to wait to see other things go vertical? You say you have a letter of intent for a restaurant.
So the park, I'm gonna let you talk about the point. The park, it will be delivered. It's under construction right now.
I got the park.
The next thing that you would see calling up is the restaurant on the point, and that is due September 2020. And so we're not asking for a delay in that. And that was the plan back in 2016, was it would be September 2020. We're not asking for a delay in that. So the important thing that I think that people want to see is activity. Park's going to be delivered, restaurant's going to be delivered. We're talking about a parking lot that's going to be a grass parking lot versus a paved parking lot for 12 months. That's really not that.
It's insignificant in the grand scheme.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just
Can you-
voicing
Yeah.
my concern that it's going to be another decade before we have a big building there.
For the record, Parker Minchenberg, 1729 Ridgewood Avenue. Mr. White, I appreciate that. The park, if you've been out there, about $1.2 million that Mr. Anatoski is putting into that. So far, some of the heavy lifting that you don't see is all the utilities have been upgraded and replaced, new water line, new reuse line. Most of the pathway is, the concrete's been poured. Mr. Brock mentioned we do have pavers on site, but there's some special order blue pavers that have been held up a little bit. That's why they alluded to maybe the city manager giving a little relief in regard to that. But Mr. Anatoski has made, over $1 million commitment once the park is completed. As part of the previous agreements, he gets the funeral home property. So just the end game of the restaurant still on the same date, but he's asking to put off for a year the parking lot that supports the restaurant.
Do you have any prospects for the restaurant? I mean, is there?
They have a letter of intent. We'll probably be able at the commission meeting to bring them here to make a presentation. We're not done with the letter of intent, or we would be disclosing who it is, but being an over 60-year resident of Volusia County, I'm excited about it, so it'll be good once it comes.
So you know the answer.
Yes, sir.
You can whisper it to us.
Can you build a from scratch? Can you build a restaurant in 14 months?
Sure.
And get it open?
Sure you can.
Can you?
Mhm.
Sure you can.
Okay.
It's harder to find a good chef than it is to build the restaurant.
It's gonna be at Checkers.
Oh, I will hurt someone.
I kind of miss Arthur Treacher's fish and chips.
I'm already mad about Taco Bell. Don't get me started.
And Mr. Brock just wanted me to say, it is about a 10,000 square foot restaurant, so it's not, your typical 2,500 to 4,000
Nice.
square foot.
It's a Waffle House.
Wow.
Better be a good chef.
Bigger
That's
than
all I
Waffle
gotta
House.
say.
Think how big a sign
Big
they'll have.
sign.
Just see that from
When you have
Bermuda.
time, I need your card.
I've got my real concern is not just extending this whole thing again, but my real concern is that allowance for the city manager to have the ability. My problem is not with the city manager, whether it's this one or the next one. It's just the fact that it's taking out of the public discussion.
Yeah, I had that same.
It doesn't come before us.
I think Mr.
Like
Brock
it
had
should.
indicated,
Excuse me?
maybe what you could do would be to say maximum of 60 days or maximum 90 days.
So we could put a time on it.
On what the city manager can approve for a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, up to 90 days, I think would be acceptable to us.
Yeah, I had the same concern.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be public discussion. That's the right thing to do for this. I understand you've got planning issues where if you didn't get it on order in time, and you've got deadlines to meet, but, I mean, those are things, and I just don't see the benefit.
The biggest delay, and this is happening on a lot of subdivisions I'm involved in, happened on a project I developed myself. FP&L is just taking forever, and we still have some overhead electric that should have been down about 4 months ago. So that's a big part of the question here about the delay.
And that I can
Hey,
attest to.
They're frequently
I deal with
culprit.
that daily, and it is a big deal. Power company, and they move at their own pace.
Gotcha. Cool. Anything else you guys have? Anything from the public? Seeing none, bring it back to us. I'd entertain a motion on the,
Wait for
Wait
our
a
clerk.
second, we're missing a clerk.
oh. What's that? We had delays last month. We were waiting around for
Somebody
the
to
staff
get
attorney
Matt,
at that time. Not you. Not you.
Matt, how would we go about putting something in our motion that would limit the length of time that the city manager could grant an extension?
Yeah, you would only be recommending that, so you're not actually, putting anything into the agreement. You could recommend to council that they put some sort of time frame. You could even phrase it that way, that you recommend approval, subject to adding some sort of time frame on the approval by the city manager for an extension.
Not to exceed 60 days or something.
Yeah, if you wanna, but at this point, it'd be a recommendation to council and the CRA.
Do we have a choice? It's happening, the paperwork's getting put in. If something delays, they're gonna ask for a delay whether we like it or not. I mean, it's
My,
happening.
my concern is not the 60-day, 30-day
Uh-huh.
construction delays, that kind of
Right.
thing. Literally, they could literally sit here and say, right now the way it's written, they could say, you know what, we want a 1-year extension.
Well, as a builder, they have that right if they can't come up with financing, investors,
Well, no.
or any unknown foreseeable delays.
He just wants it to be able to come before the
Yeah.
public rather
Yeah.
than.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and
The city
actually, that
manager.
takes
Yeah.
some of the pressure off the city manager in terms of, the relationship there. I think that, you're putting him in a hot spot.
Yeah, I mean, I see.
I mean, I get the fact
intent.
there's gonna be delays. I mean,
Well,
that happens, I know that. But
yeah,
we've
trust me,
got
it does.
contractual obligations here. That's essentially what this MDA is in the development, right? So, I mean, if they
Well,
miss
here's my
those-
fear. If you push them up against the corner,
Mhm.
they could just drop the whole project.
I get that.
I don't want that. I'd rather give them a little leeway because I'm seeing
And
something
that's,
happen.
I think that's why
Yeah.
60 days?
Well, again,
Give the city manager
I'm
the
not
ability-
shoving them. I've seen conceptual plans going back 20 years in that area, so I'm pretty
Absolutely.
pleased with that. This is happening, and they upgraded the utilities, and that stuff is, believe it or not, that is things we don't see the public, but from a builder's perspective.
I'm not talking about that, John. That's not all- I don't have any question about what they've made as far as
positive
an
direction.
investment goes.
Okay.
What I'm really saying is, I just
Yeah.
want to be able to limit the
Well-
ability for that to take it out of public discussion.
I'm pleased with your schedule.
You all ready?
Oh, you're back?
We're just waiting on you to
Yeah,
make
we
the
were killing
motion so we
time.
could hear.
Okay.
Anybody want to make a motion on this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to approve case number, let me get this right, 19-40000004.
I'll second.
With condition?
It doesn't see conditions on this one.
I think
It
you
just
can
says
add.
approval.
With a
Staff
recommendation.
recommendations approval. Is that correct? Okay, as stated.
Okay.
Well, what about the 60?
I'd
He
like
didn't-
to offer an
he did not
amendment to the
include that.
motion.
You wanna add to your amendment?
I would like to offer an amendment to your motion.
Go right ahead.
That would be that we send it forth with the recommendation that the CRA and the council consider putting a limit of 60 days extension at the authority of the city manager.
As stated by Commissioner White.
Do I have a second for the amendment?
Second.
All right, so you want to, can we just restate that motion then? I don't wanna have to vote on it
Like to seek approval for case number 19-40000004 with the amendment recommendation that they have the ability to renew the request within 60 days. Is that correct?
No more than 60
No more than
days.
60 days.
No, it's not really.
For city
well,
manager.
Really?
That's not
Well-
really what it said. No.
So, yeah,
Matt, help.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
restate, let me restate, then you say yes. All right,
Help.
here we go. So the motion, as I understand, It is that you're going to approve this case subject to making a recommendation to City Council that you would like to have the city manager's discretion on extensions limited to a 60-day period.
Well said,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
What
you.
Matt said.
You get paid the big bucks.
We have a motion second. Is that okay with you? Good. All right. If you call the roll on that.
John Junkin.
Yes.
Maria Mills-Bennett.
Yes.
Bo Bofamy.
Yes, ma'am.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White.
Yes.
Stan Schmidt.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can we take a 2-minute break?
As he runs down the stairs, not even waiting for you to answer.
There you go. Take a recess here. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Okay, what is this?
After
Yeah.
And we're live.
All right, this time we're back and we have case number 19-2500002, which is Land Development Code proposed amendment.
Good evening, Penelope Cruz, Planning. So before you is a proposed amendment to allow smaller scaled kind of residential, commercial type contractor businesses in the Ridgewood Development Zoning District, the one you see in purple, and auto sales in the commercial industrial zoning district, what you see in gray, as permitted uses with special development requirements. And this is basically to create some opportunities for these vacant sites and buildings in these zoning districts to be developed and attract more tenants, but with special development requirements. And I just want to clarify that the area that's outlined in red is the Riverwalk Overlay District, and that does not allow any of these uses. And so even though that purple zoning is there, the overlay district prohibits that use in that area there. So it would be outside of that. So let's see real quick here. So basically, the code currently allows contractors' yard and storage uses in the industrial districts, CI and LI. In 2013, this use used to also be allowed in the Ridgewood Development District. It was removed through the Ridgewood Corridor planning process based on some unwanted impacts in adjacent residential areas. This proposed amendment is kind of more of just a refined approach to dealing with that type of use. So rather than just how we eliminated it completely in 2013, this proposed amendment is looking to create these economic development opportunities while preventing and minimizing any kind of impacts. So it kind of redefines the category into two separate uses. So rather than just having a straight one use for contractor's yard and storage, it breaks them down into like a smaller scale and a larger scale type of contractor business. So the ones that are more geared towards residential, commercial type improvements, that would be defined now as a construction and home improvement contractor, and that would be allowed this proposed to be allowed in the Ridgewood Development District with special development requirements. The larger scale use contractors, like infrastructure type, national, regional kind of contractors, would be redefined as infrastructure, construction, contractor yard, and only still allowed in the industrial category. So the smaller scaled contractor yards are really geared towards serving the local residents, businesses. They typically, because of who they're serving, require that visibility on a commercial corridor rather than being in our industrial parks, kind of away from the public. They typically don't have as much of that heavy equipment, trucks, and inventory, so they're able to screen it with fencing, with landscaping, and they don't require as much land area as well. So what staff is proposing is to allow them in the Ridgewood Development District with the following special development requirements. The requirement to have an office building on the site. So it's not just like a storage yard or storage area. Have a building with an office use. Have the full screening of any kind of vehicles or equipment with a fence and landscaping, and restrictions on hours of operation. So what we're currently proposing is 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So that would be what we're proposing for that smaller scaled contractor use. The larger scale one doesn't really change. It's just kind of renaming the current use that's there and keeping it only in the industrial areas. So the next part of this amendment is regarding the commercial industrial zoning category. Similar to that other use, staff has been getting a lot of inquiries over the past year or so to allow motor vehicle sales in the commercial industrial zoning district. Right now, that commercial industrial zoning district allows a variety of motor vehicle related uses. I've listed some of them here and in the staff report. The only one that's identified in our code that's not allowed in this zoning district is motor vehicle sales. All the recent inquiries we've received are for people that want to do internet sales and store their vehicles inside of a building. So not your typical car lot that you see right now, like on Ridgewood or some of the other areas. So staff is proposing to add this to this zoning district with that special development requirement that any kind of vehicle display area or merchandise has to be stored inside of a building, and that basically allows for that parking to be maintained for the industrial uses, because those type of uses typically don't overpark when they design their sites. And it also allows that parking area in the driveways to remain unobstructed for maneuverability of the trucks and stuff that are in the industrial uses. So that's what staff is recommending. We recommend approval, and here to answer any questions you might have.
John.
No, I'm kind of becoming more familiar with that area, and it it does, I'm a contractor, so I kind of like to hint what they're doing for it, so I have no questions at this point in time.
Maria?
I had a question about one of the permitted uses is antennas.
No, that's been changed.
Okay.
That's not a permit. I'm sorry, there must have been a copy of an old.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
good.
Muni code hasn't been updated with our with our previous amendment. So when we did the cell tower code amendment, that got taken out.
And that's what I was going to ask. Perfect.
Bo?
Screening,
Mhm.
green screening. I think that it's 10 feet currently.
Mhm.
And we have lines overhead, electrical lines,
Mhm.
that are in that screen area,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
Why can't we can we change that to 20 feet instead of the 10?
We could. In special development requirements for, if you look at attach exhibit 1 and the last page of that, where we have the special development requirements, where you see the underline of what's proposed to be added, and luckily we have draft there in case there were any great ideas from you guys. So
Just
C,
in case.
hopefully. So C talks about full screening with a opaque wood or PVC or fence or masonry wall and a 10-foot wide buffer. We could change that to 20 before this goes to council if that's the commission's desire.
I'd like to recommend that.
That's a really good point, actually, yeah, because right now on Ridgewood, we have a really hard time
They
getting
count-
the planting that's
yeah.
required by code, because FPL doesn't let you plant the full shade trees because you
Right.
gotta top them off, and so, yeah, having that extra space allows you to push it back, so
And
that's a
do
great
better
idea.
Screening.
Mhm.
Good, good. Okay.
Yeah, we can definitely make that change before this goes to council.
Okay, Bo earning his keep.
I've sold some properties.
I
Yeah, really.
my concern was kind of the reverse of that is a lot of those lots, as I remember when you presented the Ridgewood Corridor plan back in, seems like the last century, but it wasn't that long ago.
2013.
A lot of the problems with development in that area is the linear nature of the lots. They're wide and shallow, and forcing more and more of that into landscape buffer is making it less useful. And that's a concern there. I was more apt to give staff more leeway in reducing the landscape buffers rather than mandatorily increasing the landscape buffers.
Well, we don't want to reduce beyond 10 on
Well,
Ridgewood.
no, I
Yeah,
mean,
really.
no, I get that, because, well, my commissioner comments tonight, but, that's coming. But that's something I was more thinking about giving staff more leeway to work with the people to make sure that they can do what they need to do, site specific. What's staff's feelings on that concept because of the size and the shape of the lots?
So what I'm thinking is, right now it's written as 10-foot wide, design type 2. Not necessarily changing the design type. What design type 2 means is 3 shade trees, 3 understory trees, 30 shrubs per 100 lineal feet. So not changing the number of planting that's required, but if you give that 20-foot space, we can actually get shade trees planted to screen the equipment,
add the
just
number
for the
of
yard.
shade
And so the
trees.
way this is written right here is that added screening is for the storage part, not necessarily the office building part. So to make sure you are able to fully screen. So I'm okay with that. So we have the same amount of plantings, but maybe give them the space to back them up away from the power lines. Kind of like a give and take for a use that we took out before, kind of refining it to something that's a
But
little
the
bit less
lots are so
impact.
small, I don't know if,
But it's-
can that really practically be done?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
mean,
move them?
whatever your pleasure
That's
is.
where I'm
Yeah.
at. If
Yeah,
you,
I get
if
what
you
you're
were to
saying.
mandatorily move it from 10 to 20 feet, I do not want to turn anybody away categorically.
So you're saying the lot might be too small to actually give that 20 feet?
Yes.
So far, the
that's my
people,
concern.
so far the lots that people have been looking at have the space for this. They're not looking at the narrow lots. They're looking at the wider lots and the lots that have the space. It's just, we've had to say no to smaller scale contractors like AC contractors, which it's not the impact that we took that use out for. You know, it's not that same scale as the larger.
Well, what we're trying to do is beautify that area and make it more attractive. We've done the medians, we've done other things down there. It seems like, some of those buildings really don't have a lot of appeal, curb appeal, and this might be a way to mitigate that, but,
Let me move it. Did you, I didn't call you and you.
No, I'm just listening to it.
Okay, do you have anything?
Um,
We move this way.
I guess, one of the things that I was thinking about
Yeah.
is that in one of my office locations, we had a painter that had their office next to ours. And, it was not a real big deal. They had people coming and going and that kind of stuff. But what was going on in the back is we had a driveway right around the building. And occasionally they would do some painting out there, so you'd get drift onto people's cars and trucks that were in the back of the building. And I don't know if that's something that we address here, if that goes at the site plan. That's my question on that.
well, there is a restriction on that now.
Yeah, we have things in our land development code when it comes to different kinds of fumes and odors and materials and things like that. That gets handled just by standard code requirements.
All right, that's what I was asking. Just
Yeah, we had a powder coating company that wanted to come in down there and they had
Yeah.
some serious restrictions.
Yeah.
You had some, Lance?
Oh, it's my
Yeah,
turn?
that's a different one.
I get a turn this time?
Yeah, let's say.
No, I mean, and I see what we're doing. I mean, a lot of those properties down there are gonna be non-conforming. I think we're gonna find a lot of them to not be exactly what somebody needs, and obviously being creative is what we need to do to get business in there. But at the same time, we don't wanna drive down the neighborhood by letting little small shops in there who got stuff laying around the yard. And my concern is how do we protect, we allow these businesses to come in, but to protect, because most of those businesses are gonna back up to residential, all along Halifax Drive. They're gonna be backing up to all those houses and protect the value of their homes and yet continue to make Ridgewood viable is gonna be the task, and how we
So-
enforce this is gonna be the.
So if you back up to a residential property, you have to follow the existing code requirements of installing the fence along the rear, plus the landscape buffer based on the intensity of your business and the residential. Typically, it ends up being about a 20-foot landscape buffer plus a fence if you're going to a commercial to residential on Ridgewood. So you've got that already in the code, so that would be required. This would, most likely for any site on Ridgewood end up being a change of use, and so they'd have to do a site plan or bring the code up to, bring the site up to code through, depending on what is needed.
Right.
Either a building permit or a site plan to add the landscaping, add the screening, the fencing, the walls, the parking.
That's what starts to make it tough for that.
Yeah.
For a small business, but.
I mean, right now, it's not a lot at all. We
Yeah.
took it out. So this is a kind of a refined approach to put it in, but separate the use into two uses, smaller scale, large scale. Put the one that's appropriate to be on a commercial corridor there, keep the one that's not in the industrial area with special development requirements.
I think we've done good with that.
I'm confused though, because there's a contractor who moved into the old Crouch Realty building within the last.
I don't know I don't know that site by that name. I'm sorry.
Right next to the boat.
Yeah, no, further up, no.
Yeah,
no,
well, it's close.
Tim's already got your answer. You
It's
ain't
the
even
one
done
that
with
used
the
to look like
question.
two
Yeah,
sombreros.
the two spires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, that kind of came back to what generated this from. We had a contractor business that came in here. They wanted to move in there.
Right.
Basically, they came back to us and said, fine, I'm just going to put my office building in there.
Right.
Well, an office is allowed to go in there.
Perfect.
We told them, hey, you can't have the equipment. You can't have the storage then. It worked fine for the first couple of months. Then you drive by and you start seeing stuff creep back in there. And if it came from a standpoint, as you look at the property, from what he started off with, he did make improvements to the exterior of the building. He also bought the property behind it and made improvements to that. If we would have basically had the fact to basically tell him to put the fencing around those areas that he wanted to do for the storage, then that would be better than us having to do constant remind them, hey, you got to take that off then. So that's what kind of generated it. Basically, we're allowing, you know, the offices in there, strictly office, and then you got to kind of keep on them to stay in terms of following what
becomes
those
a code
conditions are.
enforcement.
Yeah, so the thought was have these restrictions, allow that use to go in there. I think they would have done that screening anyways, and, you know, it would have been get that business in there. So that's kind of what drove us to look for that amendment then.
How about, there's a similar situation in the place where my office used to be, the Meeker Place there. There's the contractor moved into that large space where the gym used to be.
Newberry Construction moved.
Yeah, because basically the same with the office, they come with the
Same
office,
thing.
then tell them the restrictions, but then you basically, you gotta keep on following up. If we have the ability to kind of put that, yes, you can have your equipment stored back there, make those requirements, go out there and do that inspection before we get the CO, then we know it's screened properly versus having to kind of catch back up with them.
All right,
Then you've got a use that's already established, and you're trying to tell them, no, you gotta get all the stuff stored off here on that way. And so this was just an attempt to try to make it more streamlined for us, but also get some businesses on that rigid corridor.
Yeah.
As you can see, they like to get on there for the exposure. They're trying to kind of.
The flip side of this then, my concern is, I agree with the concept, I really do. Flip side is, if you look at what used to be Max Marine, that has office space and a storage yard. I can't say that.
That would be a different use category. That's the boat storage, the vehicle and boat storage use.
But a contractor could go in there.
No, it would be a change of use. It's defined as a different use.
Yeah, I'm saying,
Yeah.
but that's a, you turn that into an office and a yard, right?
But they would have to follow these requirements, yes.
I get
Yeah,
it.
they'd have to
Screen the
install the
yard and
opaque.
everything else.
They
And
couldn't
then-
have the boat sitting next to the curb.
Well,
No, they'd have to put the landscape buffer,
that's
they'd
kind
have
of
to have
where
the
I'm
full
getting here, 'cause
screening.
Massey
Yeah.
Construction, their storage yard looks.
Well, and that type of
questionable.
use would not be allowed on Ridgewood anymore. That's an existing non-conforming use. That was part of the main reason we took it out, because that the complaints that the residents had from that. So that would fall under infrastructure contractor yard,
So would the,
that scale.
I can't remember what it's called now, there's a
Maybe
storage
required
yard.
industrial now, though, right?
There's a storage yard just north of the dock, I think. But she's got it used to be a gal's name, she has a trailer and a storage
No,
yard.
that's
Oh.
south of it. It's
Yeah, right, it is south. Yep.
Galen, Karen Galen. I think.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
vehicle,
So I
boat.
mean, does that meet the requirements? They have an office?
That's that different use. It's the vehicle, boat store.
I-
It's
I'm
not a
sorry, but
contractor's
could-
yard.
Could somebody go in there and say, I've got
They
an
would have
office?
they would have to bring it up to code.
Okay.
Anything that's a change of use, those are all separately defined uses. So when you go from one use to another, whether you're storing boats and things or whether you're storing equipment for your contractor's yard, it's a change of use. So you would have to add the landscaping, add the opaque screening, add whatever parking is required, bring the whole property up to code, because it's a change of use. That's the way our code's written. Anytime you change use, or anytime a site has been
Right.
vacant for 6 months or more, you have to bring that site up to code. Unless you're a targeted business, just a plug for our Ridgewood Corridor targeted business program. I can give you more information about that if you're interested.
Thank you, good job. All right, cool.
Call Penelope
Call me,
Cruz.
call me.
Very cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate all that. Thanks, Timmy. Anything else? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Seeing none, back to us. Any comments or questions or a motion?
So what about the 20 feet?
Oh,
Yeah, Newton was conflicting with the 20 feet that Bo said, so what are we gonna do?
Recommend it.
and John, you get to make the motion.
No, no, I'm not. No.
Hit that AAP card, it all goes downhill.
Yeah, I get.
I don't know, is that something anybody?
I'll
No,
get
I'm
absent-minded.
happy. If staff is happy with it and they're understanding my concern of fitting it on, if you go with a wider buffer, you still have to fit it on the lot.
Mhm.
So by the time you put a back buffer and a front buffer, you don't have much room for meat in the sandwich.
Make me hungry.
Yeah.
Taco Bell.
Does that seem reasonable? Does that seem reasonable in the practical use of this?
She liked the 20-foot buffer because she says it was
Again, this
working
is
well
a
with
draft.
utilities.
The problem that we come into contact with is it's a good point in that both points are good, well taken. We do have limited size lots. but we also have problems with people planting shade trees because of the lines. So you're gonna most likely just get in those buffers understory trees. You're probably not gonna get the shade trees in the buffers because of the lines. So it's
Yeah, I think we live in just a 20-foot buffer to screen the storage area only.
It's just the
That's
yard, not
key.
the office
And
building.
Basically, the smaller lots, most likely in their storage area is going to be back behind the building because of the small lot. We're talking about the lots on Ridgewood that are wider, but they can spread out that storage area. That's the area we'd be targeting. The parking lot.
And that's the area we want the 20
building,
feet.
10-foot setbacks. And want to restrict anything. And I think the smaller lots you're concerned about, most likely the storage is going to be in the back behind the building. So that 20-foot buffer wouldn't even apply to them at that point. They'll still have to do screening. So I think if we're comfortable with that, because we think that's basically the most effective way to screen this use to try to make it successful in Ridgewood.
Cool.
So basically, that's just the recommendation would be to just, if that's your pleasure, would be to just amend C under the code amendment for under Chapter 18, Section 4, 5.12C.
Wow.
To change the, or you can just say the buffer for the storage yard part of the
Oh,
use
you know I'm
to
not
go
making
from
this one.
10 to 20.
You know I'm staying away.
Well, hold on.
You don't have to say all that,
Yeah,
you can just
let
sort
her
of-
let her get it out, and somebody say so moved, please.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so you can recommend approval of the code amendment with the recommendation to amend the code amendment for Chapter 18, Section 4, subsection 5.12C to change the landscape screening for the storage yard only from a 10-foot wide buffer to 20-foot wide buffer.
So moved.
Second.
Wonderful, thank you, Penny.
Woo!
We have a motion and we have a
Nice.
second. Well said. Good job there.
Good job,
Do
Bob.
you want
Think about
to
that.
call the roll, please?
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett?
Yes.
Bo Bofamy?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes.
Stan Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan?
Yes, thank you for, thank you.
What would we do with our
Bring on the jokes, bring on.
We would be so messed up.
Yeah, thank you, staff.
I hope that
Thank
works, I
you,
really do.
Penelope.
I really hope that
Holding our hands on that
helps.
one.
Good. Finally, moving on to case number 19-600000006, administrative rezoning for 415 Herbert Street. Hey, look who's here, Penelope.
Hey, Penelope Cruz Planning. The subject property is 0.64 acres. It's owned by the city of Port Orange. We're requesting to rezone it from commercial industrial to government public use, basically with the intent of hopefully being able to secure some grants in partnership with the historic preservation organizations that we've been working with to hopefully one day develop the site as the historic train museum where the historic train depot is. Staff report got into all the history behind the depot and why it's so awesome. So I'm just here to answer any questions you might have.
This makes me so
Not a
happy.
whole lot of these left in the state. That was-
Oh, I'm
that was
so
amazing.
excited.
Cool. Who wants to start? Lance.
This is awesome.
This is your, this is your hot topic, right?
Couldn't be better.
Love it.
You're good? You're
I'm
good? Oh,
You know, I've driven down Herbert Street 1,000 times,
Never seen it.
and until today, I never realized that was there.
You never went there to get your
Wow.
feed from the feed store?
No.
Golly, man.
man.
No, never
Once a
have.
week.
You call yourself a resident.
Yeah. It's shameful.
at one point, that was a
They
massive
showed it on the
station.
dock,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, this
Mhm,
is,
yeah.
this is great.
Yep.
I'm a Lance on that.
Cool. Maria?
I'm super excited. Can we tackle Gamble Place next? Okay, so Train Depot. I'm super excited.
John?
No, I'm sharing your happiness and joy there. I'm just getting better pictures on my laptop. I was blowing it up. And yeah, I'm definitely a history buff, and I always just love to listen to Ken Parker tell me
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
historical
Ken Parker.
stories, and this is part of it, you know.
me
And
too.
we need to
Yeah.
preserve this.
Did
Don't
your
get my
dad
dad
help-
started.
I'm
Did
old
your
for
dad
it.
help build this?
He might have. He lived
Listen,
across-
don't get Alan
Anyone
started on
across
telling
the
you
street.
history.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Nope.
They're
Bring
so
it back to the
excited.
commission, yeah. Very cool stuff. I'll entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 19-6000006.
I'll second.
A motion and we have a second. If you'll call the roll, please.
John Junko?
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett?
Yes.
Bo Bothamy?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Newton White?
Yes.
Stan Schmidt?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan?
Yes.
Woohoo!
And with that, moving on to commissioner
report.
comments under other business. Let's start with Lance.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
reluctant.
Lord.
Tim, I got a couple questions for you if you want to come up.
No, he doesn't.
One guess what one of them is going to be about.
Yeah, the Taco Bell sign.
How big is that Waffle House sign going to be down there at the Riverwalk? No.
5 times as big as the other one.
I'm curious to know what's going on with the Thompson Pump project. Is it dead now?
I'll have to. We've been in contact with them. They said that they're still working on the interior of their plans there for the building there. But at this point, we got the MDA approved. They bought the property, but they have not come forward with a site plan yet.
Because my understanding is that they might be in the process of selling a certain portion of the business, and they might not move there now.
We haven't had any inquiries basically as to what could be developed on the property, which is usually the first sign we hear when properties go on the market with not the for sale sign is you have people calling, hey, I'm interested in this property. We have not received any of those. When we talked with their engineer, they said they're still working toward developing that property.
Okay. The Acorn storage. I'm going to be the first to tell you that I'm very disappointed in what's happened with the buffer of that property as it faces along Williamson and Airport Road. We've let that property go out there and quote, we put this buffer in place, and by the time they get done picking at it and poking at it, there's nothing left. The buffer along Williamson and all around the curve is gone. I'm completely disappointed with what we've done with letting them take advantage of it. Now, we literally have buildings. You can see a building within 50 feet of Williamson is their first buildings and their first driveway, and I just cannot be more disappointed with what we've done there with buffering that business from Williamson, I guess, is what my beef is.
I thought they were going to, because I've noticed that as well. They do seem to be kind of just chipping away at it.
Yeah.
But I assumed once they're done, they were going to kind of build it back up.
Well, they're going to have to replant, and there's going to be the landscape plan, and I get that, but I guess the whole buffer thing to me just got blown away on that particular project. Why can't they finish the driveway out on Williamson? Why can't they at least pave the right of way? Because what they're doing right now is using it as a parking lot for construction.
Yes.
They're parking their cars in the right of way on Williamson. That right of way needs to be done.
All right,
There's no
we'll go ahead
reason
and
why
look
it
into
can't
that
be
then.
done.
It might be, we'll go ahead and check in to see what that one then.
It's growing weeds out of the lime rock that they put in there for that base for that turn in, and now what they're doing is they're just parking construction vehicles out on that apron, and it's not right to the general public.
All
You
right.
have to keep going by there and looking at it and to drive by it and ride a bike over it, and the kids are getting ready to start school, and now they're gonna be going over a muddy Lime Rock Road with cars in the way.
All right, we'll look into that then. And if you have
okay.
those concerns, please just give me a call earlier before, into the meeting then, so we can go ahead and work to address those as soon as possible then.
Yeah. But like I said, hopefully when we do their landscaping and they got their landscape plan, that we're going to be very, very critical on what's planted out there, so that hopefully we can get some regrowth. It's going to, I mean, those buildings are just, they seem like they're right there. I mean, it is close. It appears to be close to me, and I wasn't envisioning looking at the back of a building right there at a residential area. But that's all I got.
Okay, I forgot to ask about it, but at the Springs Apartments, part of the thing was they're gonna put the rest of the walkway lights up. I hope we have it figured out ahead of time, so it's not like Dunlawton, who's gonna be responsible for the
They are.
maintenance. They are ongoing, so we know.
We know who to contact.
We know where to turn the power off and on.
Someone else will turn the power off and on, and we'll know who to basically tell them to maintain it.
Okay, second thing, I'll go out of order. The Kangaroo at Spruce Creek and Nova Road. Gas station.
I frequent that.
Suddenly I look over there and it's closed, and there's a demolition dumpster sitting in front of it, and people were in there taking equipment out of there today. I had no premonition that was closing. Is there any site plan or anything? Nothing
Nothing on nothing, and to remove stuff from inside the building, no permits needed for that then.
So they have no plan, they haven't submitted anything to remodel, wow. Scary. The other thing is, in the Ridgewood corridor, the new resident where the car lot was is Dave's Pest Control. And, I mean, I was kind of happy to see the car lot go, but it left basically a rock surface, kind of moonscape, landscape, no buffering, no nothing.
We are working with Dave's Pest Control to get that site brought up to code.
Zero-scape, as they would call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So
that's what
that
I
is
said,
that is an ongoing project.
Okay, so we should be expecting to see, because I was surprised I saw the sign coming. I said, well, that ought to be a fairly good occupant there. And then I saw, like this morning when I drove to the gym, I saw all the equipment and stuff parked there, and I'm like, well, they've already moved in. Yeah, man. Look at them guns. I saw all the equipment and everything parked there, and I says, well, they're already there, and they haven't, we're still looking at the car lot. So, okay. I'll let you go on that. I can see you're frustrated. You're going to be doing something on that. That's all I got.
I just had the same comment you did about that one.
Moonscape.
No.
Both.
I remember.
Maria.
Just talk to me about the church on Madeline. What is happening? What are they doing? I saw something in the paper that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing or whatever. What's going on with
I know
it?
code enforcement has been out there basically in terms of mowing. Basically, they
Yeah,
do
'cause
have
it's a
a
jungle.
order to have the building power washed and blade painted by the 1st of September in terms of that time frame. Again, they still have an active site plan. They have 10 more months to get it completed, which entire
But they do have an active site plan.
Yes, 10
Okay.
months to get it completed too.
Okay.
Building permits have been issued for exterior renovations there. The contractor indicated to us, I believe, that he was going to start those. I know that we gave the irrigation or water meter out there, so they have water for construction purposes for
Okay,
the
good.
stuccoing. So it is appearing to be moving forward then, and we have a countdown every day till basically when that May 31st, 2020.
Can we start getting a
deadline.
clock on the back wall to like count it down for it? No, I'm just kidding.
We got too many projects with countdowns to worry about. It'd be like those
Really?
different times and different zones.
Which countdown do you want?
There's
I was just curious
there's an
because
app
it
for
looks
that.
like a jungle and it didn't look like they had done anything. And I know our deadline is passed to.
I know code enforcement
Figure
has
something
been
else.
out there
Okay.
continuously on that one, and mowing has occurred on there.
But things like broken windows and those
They-
things are still not
They
being
were
addressed.
before the magistrate
Yeah,
for code enforcement at the last meeting, and I read the article on that as well. And they have so much time to get certain, whatever the things was that they can still make them do. And if they don't meet that deadline, it's $1,000 a day fine.
So they just plan on renovating the building as is.
Yeah,
Right
their
now.
plan is basically what their lot is to pretty much renovate the exterior of the building, make it look new, complete a parking lot, do all the required landscaping, the 20-foot buffers, the foundation plantings, the landscape plantings in the parking lot, irrigation, also install the 6-foot fence on the sides that face the vacant residential property, and construct 8-foot sidewalks along Madeline Avenue and along Williamson Boulevard.
Wow.
No interior.
And then hope to sell it, I
No,
guess.
no interior,
No bowling alley.
No
engineering
interior.
or blueprints regarding.
No interior, that would come later, and when that comes later, most likely we'll need to do a site plan to add more parking and probably adjust things because the site will need to be adjusted, so.
Sounds like they're going about it backwards.
Interesting.
And you agree to that, so you kept quiet.
I was in the
I'm
camp
good,
to have
that's
it
all I
demolished.
want.
We agreed.
We all agree.
Yeah, well,
For us.
Because it's open.
Leave that one alone.
Like 27,000
My- you know,
square foot with no.
My biggest
pillars.
concern is really, when you talked about
Yeah.
what we got with the product we see for Acorn, for example, and we see these examples we bring up here for the ordinances to change and allow certain things on Ridgewood, what we envision is not necessarily what we actually get. It's not the product that we think we're going to get.
Yeah, it happens, yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yep.
That's the thing, and I get the fact that, hey, I want
think-
to spend I'll spend just enough money to bring it up to code, because it's not generating sales. If I'm a business owner, well, you know, you don't really want to spend money unless it's going to generate sales. Sometimes you have to, and people tend not to meet the requirements for screening and landscaping. I know those plants die, or the amount of buffer that we think we're going to get isn't quite what we think we're going to get, or it
Do you
doesn't look
remember
like
the
it.
elevation that they presented? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
The balloon test and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
on the back of
terracotta
the
and
Which is one reason why I challenge it when we start talking about what it could look like, what we think it's going to look like, what they plan on it looking like. We have no say over that. What they tell us it might look like.
Well, the exterior of the building, it's still an ongoing building, so it's not a finished product yet.
Yeah.
And to speak to the buffers, that is one of the reasons, basically coming from the EAB, you're on that board there, basically what we looked at in terms of trying to preserve more of that buffer, because basically the code allows trees to be removed in there. It's in the code. They have the right to do it. So what we did, based off the EAB direction, Planning Commission approved it, City Council approved it too, was to put more emphasis on preserving those trees. And what we did was establish, if you standard site plan, you got to do this buffers, the trees in the buffer 6 inches or greater in the tree survey. When you start removing those trees that are 6 inches or greater, regardless of what the type of the tree is, you have to pay a mitigation payment.
Right.
That site plan didn't have it. Now, when you're looking at paying $30,000 to remove those trees because you don't like the view corridor, you don't like the appearance of them, you might change basically your ideas and, okay, I'm going to keep those trees because I don't want to pay that $30,000 payment that previous I didn't have to. So we are starting to see uses when you show them that payment, not only for the trees in the buffer, but also we did that for the specimen trees. The specimen trees on a site, you know, some sites you can remove, let's say 3 specimen trees. Developments come in here, developers, they know they can remove the 3 by code, they're wiping those out now and plan their site around it. Now you're coming back saying you got to pay to be able to take those trees down. Now they're starting to look at other ways. Can I do a parking lot around there? Are there are there ways to basically reduce the pavement in there so I can preserve that tree? So it is starting to make a dent in the plans we're approving. Unfortunately, that one followed the old code. But newer ones that are coming in on there, there's going to be that more emphasis to save those trees because they're going to have to put money out for it then.
Right.
I did want to add one thing. You guys, the staff has been doing a really good job. I have noticed that a lot of the applicants and developers that have come in here have talked about how you guys have really pushed them to be creative on their project and come up with solutions to that, and been pushing them for better designs. I think you guys have been really aggressive in that and done a good job. And it helps when they come before us then, because we know you've already done that. A lot
It
of
helps.
that work.
That's mainly the SDRC staff basically working right there in all facets there, from fire, utilities, planning, landscaping, engineering, all working with that then. And, kind of basically what we hear from you on these meetings, we take back with us, and we kind of basically, use that and trying to guide those developments, same with council then.
And throw darts at our pictures.
Just yours.
Just yours.
Just science. Anything else? Any other commissioner comments? Any staff comments?
You didn't do John.
Oh, did I not call him John?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Just some minor, very minor. When you email us the packets, in the past when you used to print them up, you used to also give us our monthly construction status.
Development activity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a way you could just incorporate both of those files in one email?
Right, because I think we have gone back to basically issuing it out once a month when it's been created, because typically we create it at the beginning of the month, and then when we send it to you,
It's
3
outdated.
weeks later, it's outdated. So that's why it's been being sent at the beginning of the month to your
Uh-huh.
email account then.
Okay. Yeah, I
because-
just like getting them together because I could download
Yeah,
them
because
together.
the problem you're getting is that you're getting information 3 weeks late then. And also too, we are trying to work on basically a better way to present the activity report. So you may be seeing a better version here in a few months with maybe just a direct
Mhm.
link to that one so we can update it more accurately.
I still liked them because it gave me a track of what projects are currently on and the new upcoming. Even though it's 30 days old, I'm still enjoying the fact that I'm keeping updated with ongoing projects that are taking a long time and projects that are about to start. So if they could just incorporate both files in one email, even though it's 30 days
but
old.
it should be, if you're on your city email, you should
Mhm.
be getting that development activity report.
Yeah.
Already.
At a separate email.
At a separate
Yeah.
email, basically
Yeah, you
development
get
activity
that,
report
right?
then.
You get
Yeah, yeah, I
It
was
should-
just
it should
thinking
come
get them
around
all
like that.
together.
Any other questions?
Yes.
I guess not.
One more comment. And it goes back to, again, sorry, I'm sorry, Tim, but, and I'm just gonna give an example, is the 7-Eleven that's out at the corner of Williamson and 95 out there. Okay, the 7-Eleven, it's on the corner. And, you know, when we built that 7-Eleven, it was like, you know, oh boy, the 7-Eleven's coming. And they've even renovated that 7-Eleven once or twice, but what happens is, again, it's run down, it's dirty, it's filthy. All of the gas pump areas are completely dirty, the store is dirty, and yet they stack waters out front, and they got this out front, and signs everywhere, but we've let that evolve. And we've got to get more stringent on trying to keep that business clean and looking like it's supposed to be in Port Orange. And what we're doing is that we're letting it run down, and I think we got to, again, back to maintaining of the buildings that we have up is going to be very important for as we go forward.
Cool. Thank you very much. Very good. And unless there's anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, what? Oh. What was it?
Public comments. Public comments?
Public comments.
Comments.
Sorry about that.
I don't know, you're the only one here.
I hope
Just
not,
checking.
because I'm hungry.
All right.
We are too.
The public
All right.
says that they are pleased about
Well
the
said.
train station.
Thank you for reminding me. Seeing that we have that passed, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.